Okay, I want to kick things off by talking about you, your skill set, and emerging jobs in AI for non-technical people. Now, we define non-technical people as people with no engineering, data science, or programming background, right? But there is a set of jobs that are now emerging in the marketplace that are for what's called AI builders. Now, this is not the job title. This is more of a vibe, but this is like for people who have a baseline understanding of their role, understand how to use AI, and then also know how to build with it. So they know how to build tools, they know how to build prototypes, and so on. It is the next level AI skill. And we are starting to see jobs open up for this. And we're starting to see teams get reorganized based around this type of role. So I'll link to this article that you see the snippets of down below. But essentially, it's talking about how tech companies like Meta, LinkedIn, stuff like that are starting to reorganize around this kind of profile of an AI builder. And so you see on the first snippet here, it says, this product manager has no technical background, but has rebuilt his workflow around AI because now he can actually, do his job and create things, right? Create tools and execute on things, something he never could do before. Then we see another snippet here. It says, in an age of vibe coding, product managers can show, not tell, right? So he talks about how role profiles are blurring, creativity and building are happening in parallel. And these are the two skills right there, right? You have to be creative and think of what are all the opportunities, and then you have to know how to use AI to actually build for them. Now, this course is not going to help you on your creativity, but it is going to help you on the building piece. That's the goal of this, is to put you in that position. They talk about product managers here, but the reality is everyone, all teams are going to need a type of product manager for AI. So it's not just for product managers. If you're looking at this, you're already ahead of the game. So, let's talk about what these jobs look like. Now, they're not called AI builders out on the marketplace. In fact, hiring managers and recruiters are still trying to get the language right. What we are seeing are jobs like AI automation engineer. Just because it has engineer in the title does not mean you actually need to know how to code, right? It's the idea. The engineer part is putting systems together. AI implementation specialist, innovation lead, all of these have elements of being an AI builder in them alongside other types of skills. So communication, systems thinking. They want you to have oftentimes workflow automation tool fluency. That's something we're working on this course. When we look at no code AI agent builders, those are workflow automation tools using AI. So we're working on it in this course. They want prompt engineering, AI tool configuration. Obviously, we're working on that in this course. They want business process analysis and use case identification. We're working on that in this course. And change management and communication, not so much in this course. But these are the skills that are in demand right now for all emerging AI roles. There's going to be differences between what they look like, these roles, but this course is preparing you for these emerging roles for non-technical people. And I tell you, I work with organizations all the time, and they're all going to need roles like this. It's not just one role. It's going to be across the organization. There will be many of these. So I'm going to link to this article in the comments, in the resources folder. And this breaks down an employer at Zapier who is an AI automation engineer. They don't have an engineering background. They combine their expertise in their subject matter function with AI capabilities. And you can see they break it down. They triage workflows, which means they map the current workflows to AI possibilities. That's something I teach in this course. They prototype quickly, also teaching that in this course. And then you can see some of the other stuff that they do in here as well. It really gives you a clear picture of where we're headed with some of these jobs. So what does this look like? Well, and you look at job postings out there. I have two of them. I have an AI product builder, the rare one I've found that has AI builder in it, an automation engineer, and they have an agentic AI solution specialist. It's a word salad out there right now. Do not rely on the job titles. What you need to look at are the requirements. And you even see her on this job description here. It says, we recognize that AI tooling, workflows, and best practices have changed drastically and continue to change fast. Truth. Because of that, we are not hiring for a rigid number of years of experience. We can care more about demonstrated capability, what you can build, how quickly you can learn, and how effectively you can turn ambiguity into a real usable solution. That right there is the essence of this course. Okay. That is what we are teaching you how to do in this course. Okay. You are going to learn how to build things, right? And you're going to learn how to do it quickly using AI. And you can see here, they want vibe coding ability, right? We're teaching that in this course. They want experience using some of these AI assisting coding tools, right? We're not teaching that in this course, but I tell you what, after you take a course like this, feel a lot more prepared to move into that space. You have agentic AI solution specialist. So this is understand current workflows and identify opportunities where AI can streamline operations, reduce manual work, and improve accuracy. That's exactly what we teach throughout this course because guess what? You have to do that in order to build AI tools. So you're building that foundation skill set right here. So this is the future of emerging AI jobs. And if this interests you, then this is definitely the course for you. We are going to build some skills here to prepare you for these AI emerging AI roles. All right, I want to talk quickly about the mindset you need when you're going to go build AI tools using AI. I point this out because it is a bit different from using AI in your everyday work. The mindset really is two things. One, experimental. You need to be thinking, what is possible with AI? Right? What is possible? And having that conversation, not just with yourself, but others, right? And then applying it using these AI tools. But probably the most unseen skill set that you need and mindset that you need here is the ability to troubleshoot through frustration. And what you're looking at right here is a great example of that. This is a Claude artifact that I was making, and I teach this in this course. It's a micro app. I was making it for my clients to help them identify use cases on their team. And I'm going to zoom in here. I want to show you. This is version 42 that you're looking at. It took me 42 tries to get to this point, and it still wasn't right. And the problem was more that I was doing too much. Quite honestly, we talk about this in this course. You have to scope it down, and I was doing too much. I was getting frustrated. And then I went to version 43 and ran into an error. And as I was trying to troubleshoot that error with AI, I hit my maximum length of the message. Now, takeaway here, I had to take a walk. I needed to stop. Wanted to throw my computer out the window, but I took a walk. I came back. We revised. We made it through. But the point being is that this is a normal part of building AI tools with AI. AI is going to do some weird things, and you're not going to be expecting it, and you're going to try to describe what you need fixed, and it's going to go off the rails. And that is just part of working with AI and building with AI. And the mentality you need is the ability to troubleshoot when that happens. Okay. Maybe you take a walk first and come back, but figure out what went wrong and try again, right? Try again, figure out what went wrong and try again. That is the iteration process. And I tell you this because a lot of the marketing around these tools, vibe coding and no code platforms makes it sound like real easy, just plug and play. They aren't. It takes time to learn the platforms, learn the model, learn how to prompt and all of those pieces. So you're in the beginning right here. That's great. But I want to set your expectations that when you're building with AI, weird stuff happens. Okay. And the key mindset is that experimental piece, which you probably already have. You're here right now, and being able to iterate and troubleshoot when you are working with these tools to build AI tools. Okay, now that you've got that, I'll leave you with this. This was an AI agent that I'm still in the middle of building. It's very pared down right now. It used to be bigger, but I am running into a problem and I can't seem to solve it. So even us, the experts, we get stuck. Okay, I'm in the middle of looking at the documentation and trying to figure it out. But in the meantime, I am going to teach this course, and maybe after this course, I'll come back and fix this agent. Okay, I want to share a quick note on the AI platforms that I use in this course that I demo to teach some of these concepts. I am not teaching you how to use a specific tool. Okay. Yes, there are specific tools in here like custom GPTs, no code AI platforms. We're vibe coding with Lovable. We're using Claude to make artifacts. Yes, but the goal is to teach you the concepts behind them. The tool is just the vehicle. Okay. And especially when it comes to the no code AI agents, there are so many platforms out there. So that's why in this course, I'm going to teach you how to choose a platform based on your needs and your experience level, and not just rely on the one that I am teaching you with. And that's for the simple fact that AI tools change fast, so fast. It is quite possible, depending on when you are taking this course, that my tool version may look different from yours because these providers are constantly changing. In fact, just last week, the tool I use all the time for free changed to a subscription only model. So I don't have a lot of control over that. And as much as I try to keep these courses up to date, I cannot chase them all. So no, that sometimes subscription levels are going to change. What may be accessible right now might not be as accessible in the future. Features and access to features change regularly. What we see is companies will put out a new feature, make it free. People like it enough, boom, it's behind a paywall. So I tell you in this course when I am using a paid feature so that way you know. And the reality is when we start building with AI, you oftentimes have to start paying for these tools and they can be between $20 and $100 a month. It just depends. So I try to use tools that are affordable in here, but I do let you know when they are paid. But the idea here isn't to learn necessarily the tool. I want you to learn the thinking around it. And that's why you will hear me repeat a lot. Okay, let's talk about how you figure out what to build. What's the use case? How do we look at our work and understand what we want to support with AI? Okay, we're building skills that are not just about using the tool. We're building skills all around that to prepare you for these emerging jobs and build your AI skill set. So keep that in mind. If you see something that looks a little weird, or you're like, well, this tool isn't quite right, or that's not the tool I want to use, great. In this I talk about how to find tools that meet your needs. So good luck, and let's get started building. Let's talk about custom GPTs and Google Gems. So specifically, what are they? They are small AI assistants that are designed to take on repetitive work. And they're designed to do tasks that are very narrow in scope. So if we think about ChatGPT, this is an assistant that does pretty much everything. Like it's designed to do many, many, many different things. Custom GPTs and also Google Gems are designed to do smaller things, right? So think of your custom GPT or Google Gem like a specialized assistant. Okay. And what you're looking at right here on the screen is a custom GPT. This is a specialized assistant that is designed to answer questions about marketing campaigns intake process. So imagine you're on a marketing team and you get a lot of questions all day long about the process. And you've got like this 5-page document that nobody reads, right? And you're tired of getting asked questions. So you make an AI assistant that can answer the questions for you. So I'll show you what that looks like. You see here we have the title of the assistant. It's called the Marketing Campaign Intake Assistant. We have a little explainer on what it is. It's a marketing campaign request and approval guide. And then we have our 3 boxes here, which are our conversation starters. This just helps people who are new to your assistant know what it can ask it. So I'm going to click on how long does the approval process take? And you're going to see it's going to give me a nice answer that's going to walk me through what it's like, what I can expect as someone who's working outside the department when it comes to the marketing campaign process. And you see at the initial review, you're going to submit a request form. Then it tells me typical approval timelines. Then it's going to give me approval levels. So it's going into even probably more detail than I would go into as a human if I were answering this question. It talks about next steps. And it even says, hey, here's some questions you can ask the assistant to get even more information. So really, this is honestly, it's going to free up so much time if you're that person who's constantly answering questions. And this is exactly what these assistants are designed to do, right? Free up your time. A lot of times you're using them for Q&A, but you could be using them for research. So uploading a bunch of information and then asking questions about it is another use case, and so on. So let's pop over to Google Gems because Google Gems are pretty much the same thing, the same product. They're just owned by Google instead of being owned by OpenAI. You can see here, just looking at the interface here, we have the name of the assistant. We have a description of the assistant. We don't have conversational topics, but we have a history of what we've talked to the assistant about. The biggest difference I'd say between these two assistants is one, you have to pay in order to build a custom GPT. So you have to have a subscription plan. You don't have to have a subscription plan to use custom GPTs, but in this course, we're going to be building. So you would need one in order to build. You need a subscription in order to build it. For Gemini, they're free. They're free to use and free to build. So that is really an advantage to Gemini. So if in this course, I'm going to be demoing mostly through custom GPTs, but just know you can do the same thing on Google Gemini, Google Gems. And even what I like about Google Gems is you can actually add more information. You can connect to, Gmail. You can connect to Notebook LM if you love that stuff. You can connect to Drive. All of that. So Gem actually has more features available. I'm not going to go into the details on that in this course because my goal is to get you set up with the basics and then have you start experimenting to see what more you can do. But just know that these products are similar. Okay. And you can build both of them and have very similar results for them. So let's talk more in the next video about why we are going to build these assistants and how they're going to help us in our job. Okay, now let's talk about when to use a custom GPT or Google Gem. Basically, you are looking for patterns in your work right now where you are constantly repeating some of the same processes, the same type of work. So let's say you have a task or a question or a decision pattern, and you're having to do this all the time, multiple times a week. It's usually a good candidate for custom GPTs. So I like to think of it if you are turning to your AI tool, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever it is, and you're constantly prompting the same thing or you're constantly adding the same documents and asking questions about it, it's time to turn it into a custom GPT or an AI assistant because when you build an AI assistant, you only do that once. You give the prompt once, you give the documents once, and then you can use it all the time. You can just turn to the AI assistant and ask it questions. Plus, you can also share the AI assistant, which means you can then give it to other people and it can perform that task, answering questions, guiding people, and so on for you. So these are really handy tools to have in your workplace. So examples of patterns to look for. So look for repeated questions. So if people keep asking you the same questions, like, how do I submit an expense report? Maybe that's a sign that you should have a custom GPT designed to answer all the questions related to travel expenses at your company. Maybe you have a repeated task, so you're constantly turning meeting notes into summaries every week. Well, instead of giving that prompt to ChatGPT every week, make an AI assistant, just drop the notes in there, and it summarizes it in one click. If you're always walking new hires through the onboarding steps, you could make a GPT where you upload all the onboarding documents and prompt it to walk a new hire through the onboarding process based on your company's documents and processes, and the AI assistant can do that for you. Repeated knowledge lookup, so explaining travel or policies, repeated output format, so if you're turning updates into a weekly status report. It has to look a certain way, right? Or maybe you're a manager and everybody giving you all their status updates for the week, and you have to put it into a format. Great example of a use case for a custom GPT. And if you're constantly having to, guide somebody through a decision process, you can also turn that into an AI assistant as well. So, example, you might be helping someone choose which vendor to evaluate. And it's the same framework every time. An AI assistant can help them as well. The thing is these AI assistants are trained on your work processes, right? So they are very specific to the context of your organization. There's often ChatGPT or Gemini NRL, the other big models aren't going to know these specifics. So essentially what you're doing is you're building an AI assistant, giving them the specifics in your job to allow them to do that task either for you or for someone else. So that's what makes these things so fun to work with and just fun to build, honestly, because you know your job best and you can create these tools to make your job easier for yourself or for other people. So let's go take a look at what it looks like to create one of these. All right, let's talk about what you need to do before you actually go in and build these tools. And what we're doing in this video is actually a really great exercise to get in the habit of doing anytime you build an AI tool for yourself, and especially if you're building it for someone else. So this goes for simple no-code agents, vibe-coded tools, small tools for your team, anything like that. Doing this type of pre-work that we're about to do here is going to ensure that your AI assistant is useful and that it is designed in the way that you want it to be. So the work that we're doing here is essentially describing the tasks that the AI assistant is doing, where the knowledge is coming from, and what you want it to look like, defining what success looks like. When you know that information, that's when you're ready to build the custom GPT or Google Gem. So there's really 5 things that you should be figuring out before you go in. And this doesn't have to be a formal process. You could just jot these things down. But you want to know what specific task is this GPT designed to handle. Okay. Being clear on what it's supposed to do is key because you're going to have to write a prompt that's going to describe what it does. The information that it should use. So this is really the knowledge and data that it has access to. One thing to keep in mind is that these AI assistants, are using the same model that ChatGPT or Gemini is using, right? That means they have general knowledge of the world, but they may not have the specific knowledge of the task that you needed to do in your job. So it may not know your onboarding procedures or your department processes or the people involved, right? So you're going to need to give it documents and processes that it can reference in order to do its job. You're also going to have to define the rules and the boundaries. So thinking about things like what should it avoid, what should it not talk about, what does it need clarification on, things like that as it relates to the task that you are doing. That is going to go into your prompt. And then you should think about what do you want the answers to look like? right? There's so many ways that these assistants can give answers, right? Do you want them in bullet points? Do you want them in friendly language, formal language? Are there acronyms they should be using? All of that information is super helpful for the assistant to know. You're going to be describing that in your prompt. So doing that work now is just going to make it easier to write the prompt. And then lastly, I want you to think about the user who is using this. Now, you might be the only person using this, and that's fine too. But if you're building for someone else, I want you to think about what the type of questions and information the users will put into the assistant. So you can think about different ways that you can test your assistant before you make it live. Okay, so this is just a little way of just thinking about who's your audience. How are they going to interact with your assistant? That's going to make it easier to build AI assistants that are useful for people and give them the results that you want. So that last one is more for the testing, and especially true if you are building for other people. So just take some time, think through this, maybe write some of these answers down, and then you will be better prepared when you go to build them, and especially when you're prompting them. This will go a lot smoother, and you'll end up getting better results. Okay, let's build a custom GPT. So I'm going to show you how to access your GPT builder. So this is actually when you sign into ChatGPT, you can access this page. It says Explore GPTs. You can see other GPTs that people have built here if you want ideas. And then you're just going to hit this create button here, and it's going to take you over to this landing space. And this is where we will be building our custom GPT. Now, if you are using Google Gems, you go to this link here, and both these links are going to be in the resources. You can see over here this little button, new gem, and you can see these pre-made links if you want, again, ideas on what to do. So you click here on new gem, and boom. Notice the similarity here. They're almost the exact same. The biggest difference when you are building these is that ChatGPT, your custom GPT, is going to have a feature called Create, and that's where you talk to an AI assistant to create your AI assistant. So you're using AI to make AI. This is very popular right now with AI tools. We are not going to take that path in this course because I want you to learn how to use the interface. And if you're using a Google Gem, you don't have that option. So we're going to take this route. So I'm going to walk you through basically what we're going to do. So you get to name your GPT. So I've already done some pre-work on this one. And the work that I did on this one, we are making a GPT here that is an onboarding assistant for a fictional company. It's going to walk new hires through their onboarding process, answer questions about the company in the customer success department. So I've already done the pre-work, and so we're going to name this customer success onboarding, where it says name, assistant helps new employees get started in their first month. So that's what this employee does here. So that's the description, or sorry, this is what this assistant does. That's the description. Now we have instructions, and this is where your prompt goes. Now I'm going to do the next video. I'll break down the prompt, but I've actually already written a prompt out. And here's what it's essentially, the first part is telling it what the job is. Then it tells it what it's supposed to always do. These are rules I want you to do all the time. I want you to explain things clearly and simply for people who are new. Always point the employee to the relevant people, tools, meetings, documents when answering a question. Never, and then I'm going to tell it what I want it not to do. Never invent company policies. Never give advice unrelated to the employee's role or onboarding process. So if the employee is like, hey, can you give me investment advice? It's not going to do that, right? That's what we mean by setting the boundaries of your AI assistant, saying what it should do and what it shouldn't do is key. And then it goes on to say, I add some instructions here about how to start the conversation, right? To kind of guide the person. I talk about the format. I want you to format your responses as short sections with bullet points and clear headings so information is easy to scan. I give the tone, professional, supportive, practical. And then I reference the documents that I'm about to upload. I say only use the information provided. If you don't know the answer, say, I don't have that information in the onboarding materials. You may want to ask your HR manager, your manager or HR, right? So I'm guiding them. Now, here's the deal. Can AI hallucinate? Absolutely. Sometimes it will make things up and sometimes it won't. This is going to reduce hallucinations, but we cannot always get rid of them. So just something to know. So then I'm going to copy and paste that prompt into the instruction box over here. And now Custom GPT has these things like conversation starters. These are little things to guide your user to let them know kind of what they can do with their assistant. So you can say like, what is expected in the first month? Who are my primary contacts in this role? What Slack channel should I join? Okay, so this is the conversation starters, and you can see there are buttons that have now shown up on the preview field where you can see here there you are starting to see your AI assistant take shape. And again, if I built this in Gemini, you see we have the same thing, name, description, instructions. There are no conversational tools or conversational starters, but you do have this preview over here, so you start to see what it actually looks like, and you can test it out as you go. So I'd start to see how my prompt is performing. Before I'm not going to do that right now. What I am going to do is upload my knowledge. So my knowledge in this case is a 17-page onboarding document. Okay, this is all fake. I've made this up, but this mimics a typical onboarding document that a new hire receives in their hiring process. So I've downloaded this into a PDF, and so I'm going to upload that here. Okay, I have uploaded the PDF where it says on the button upload files. And you can see it is now uploaded. Now you can upload tons of files here, right? You really can and give it all the information you need. The key is to give it the right information. It doesn't have to have access to everything. It just has to have access to the information that's most relevant for the job. You don't want to overwhelm. Okay, but you do want to give it enough context that it understands the job that it's trying to do. Now, you could also recommend a model. I'm not going to do that. And they do have capabilities. This is tools that the AI assistant has access to. I'm going to take off Canvas, image generation. They don't need to do that. And honestly, they don't need to web search in this AI assistant. This is up to you, what capabilities, okay? Same with Gemini. With Gemini, you can add files and connect to, different tools and stuff like that. With the gems, I'm not going to cover that in here. I'm going to let you experiment with this because all of that is going to depend on the type of assistant you're building. So once I have this set, I'm going to go up to the button in the top right-hand corner and click create. But before I do that, I'm going to test it to see how does this perform. So who are my primary contacts in this role? So you see it says searching my knowledge base. And it's going to give me a breakdown of who these people are, what they're responsible for. Oh, and it even added what my weekly meetings are at. I think actually that's actually a good one for people to know. I'm actually going to update my conversation starters with what meetings should I know about? Because I forgot that was even in the document. And I think as a new hire, knowing what meetings you should be at is super helpful. So that is in the onboarding document. So look at that. It just broke down all these contexts, cross-functional partners. Wow. And then the agent goes on to say, the assistant here, here's some other people you should meet with that I can explain about and so on. I'm actually going to ask, what meetings should I be attending this month? Okay. And again, remember when I said pre-work, think about what your users, you yourself, and people using this might be asking the AI assistant, right? When you do that work, it then makes it easy to test this. And this is what you're doing. You're sitting there saying, do I like this? Should it change, right? If you were like, this is actually too much information. Because what we're seeing here, the result here is, a summary, and then we have your direct manager, customer success leaders, then we have customer success team peers, cross-functional partners, right? This is a lot of information. You may decide that you want the format to be very short and readable. So let's add that here. Oh, I forgot to see my response to what meetings should I know about. We'll go back to that. So yeah, the output should be short, scannable, and to the point. No fluff. Don't overwhelm the user. Okay, so I'm adding that to my prompt. And now that's going to update. You see how it's growing, getting gray right there? It updated, the prompt updated. So now I'm going to try that again. What meetings should I know about? Okay, here are a couple meetings. And let's see, did that reduce the volume on my screen? So I'm still seeing, okay, it's giving me a list. Okay, so the output is noticeably shorter here. We have fewer words. We still have, the weekly meetings. I have the key information. I've got some one-on-ones coming up. I have it broken down to monthly meetings and a detail of that. So I think this is actually really useful. This is certainly shorter than the version I had before. So that's what it looks like to build a custom GPT. It's this iterative process where you start with, here's my ideal, this is my prompt, this is my knowledge. Now I'm going to test it. And if I like the results, I'm going to send it out into the world. If I don't, I'm going to update it. And most times you're going to keep updating the prompt until you get an output that you really like. So we're going to say that, yeah, we really like this assistant. And I'm going to hit create. And then it's going to go through the process of, telling, I can use it only for myself. It's going to give me the choice to share it with anyone the link or put it in the GPT store. I'm going to choose anyone with the link and I'm going to save that. And I will put this in the resources so you can try this out as well. And that is how you build a custom GPT. And just as I said before, it's also exactly how you build a Google Gem as well. You have the exact same layout over here, so you can do the same as well over there. So next up, let's talk about how you get a good prompt and the type of data that you should be using. Okay, some quick tips on how to prompt the AI assistants. They are very similar to prompting tips from if you're using AI in general. Some of this will look familiar. You don't always have to do this, but this is just some general best practices here. So one, I want you to be specific about the role and or the task it should do. So, no writing, you are a helpful assistant, because that is just vague, right? Get specific. You are a project intake assistant. Your job is to, help people understand the processes around our marketing campaign, right? That is specific and it tells the assistant what it needs to be doing. It scopes the task. Set boundaries. You should be telling it what not to do just as much as what it should do. Specify the format. We saw that the last video where I started specifying the format, but I wasn't specific enough around how I wanted it to look. It was giving me too much of an output, overwhelming. I wanted it to be shorter, and so I described what that looks like. Set that tone, right? These assistants can take on any tone you want. If you are in finance, have it use finance language. If you are someone that wants it to be entertaining and make a painful process more entertaining, hey, make it a fun tone, right? You have the options here. If you upload the documents, tell it to use them, right? Only answer using the uploaded materials. It will already know that it's using them, but it does not hurt to say, hey, reference them. And keep those instructions short. The longer and more complex, the more it misses. I say this because we are at a point where we can just ask ChatGPT and Gemini to create our prompts for us. And they will, and they'll do actually quite a good job. But oftentimes we will see these prompts that are so long and you just don't need that kind of detail. In fact, you increase the likelihood that it's going to miss something, which sounds counterintuitive. But that's the reality with these AI assistants. Being concise and specific is better than adding all of that a detail, so much so that you're almost controlling it too much. Okay. So let's look at the prompt we just used in that last example. I showed it a bit in the last video, but this is the prompt, and you can see here that in the top, I don't necessarily give it a role, but I do detail the job it should be doing. So it says your job is to guide new employees through the company onboarding processes by helping them understand how the company works, who they work with, what tools they use, and what they should focus on in their first 30 days. Always explain things clearly and simply for someone who is new to the company. Right, so I'm telling it what it should do. I've told it its job. I told it what it should do. Then I go on to say never do these things, and I talk about never inventing things, never giving it unrelated advice. I give it some details about how I want the interaction to look. So I say, when someone comes to you, start by asking, what's your role? What's your department? Right? Are you trying to understand a process or tool, or should I focus next in your onboarding? Because here's the thing, someone else might be using this tool who is not part of the onboarding process. I know that because I know these tools get shared around, and maybe it's not specifically for one person. So I'm anticipating that in the usage of this assistant. And I talk about the formatting, right? Use short sections with bullet points, clear headings. And then you can see I go on to add more. The output should be short, scannable, and to the point. And then I talk about that tone, professional, supportive, and practical. I reference the documents, and then I say, if you don't know the answer, say, I don't have that information in the onboarding materials. Now, is it going to do that every single time it doesn't know the answer? Maybe, maybe not. It is going to reduce, however, the amount of hallucinations by doing that. So I have in your resources a custom GPT setup prompt template. This is just a structure you can follow to write these prompts in the beginning. Once you get used to it, or if you use the chat builder in custom GPT setting, this prompt will be written for you. But this is just a way to make it easier when you're first getting started. You can also use this prompt template in Google Gem as well. So check your resources folder for that. Okay, let's talk about uploading files and knowledge and data to your AI assistant, right? This is a key part of creating these AI assistants, right? You are essentially training a model to understand the job it's supposed to do. And oftentimes that's your job or a job, right? And so what you're doing is you have a screenshot here that I am showing from the part of the custom GPT builder where it says knowledge and it has that button that says upload files, right? We uploaded that onboarding document earlier. And essentially, what you're doing is creating what's known as a knowledge base. So, a knowledge base is a collection of documents that you upload. So, the GPT answers from your content instead of the general model knowledge, right? That's trained on all of the internet. So, think of it as giving a reference folder to pull from every time someone asks a question. So, rather than asking the model, it's going to this folder and pulling information. So what should go in this file? Well, that's going to depend on the job that your AI assistant is doing. But there are some tips to make a good knowledge base. One, I want you to use clean, readable documents, plain text, simple PDFs, spreadsheets, fine. Those are all fine to use. You want things labeled clearly so the content is easy to parse. Remove anything outdated, right? But you don't want all the data in there. You only want relevant data. Okay, so check your information to make sure it's relevant. If you're uploading, questions or you're uploading an onboarding document, make sure it wasn't from like 17 years ago, right? Some of us, we work in those kind of organizations. So the more specific the document, the more accurate the output. Don't upload everything. Focus on what's directly relevant. You've heard me say that again and again because the AI assistant is referencing that information. And you want your user, whoever it is, to have the most relevant information. So examples of a knowledge base here. This is an FAQ. So I showed you that marketing campaign one earlier. This is an example of some of the questions. I think that one had like 50 questions on it. So this is a sample. If you are a person who is building an AI assistant that's going to answer questions about processes, people, anything like that, then you should upload a knowledge base of FAQ, right? And lots of FAQ so the assistant can reference it. This is an example of a benefits knowledge base. So maybe instead of answering specific questions, you're going to upload all the benefits plan and people can ask questions about the benefits plan and you upload all the details from the providers and stuff like that. Common use cases for sure. These Q&A assistants are probably one of the most widely built AI assistants, I'd say, in the organization. So definitely think about when you're building this AI assistant, what information does it need in order to do its job well? Think about your own job. What information are you accessing all the time to complete the task? That's exactly how we come and figure out what data to add to this AI assistant. Check your resources folder because on the screen here you see a list of functions, some example custom GPT or Google gems, and then the types of files you would want to upload for that knowledge base. And this just gives you ideas of just how many different things are out there, right, that you could possibly build. So let's say that you are in learning development and you wanted to build a manager coach GPT. This example is on here. You might need to upload the leadership competency framework for your company, the manager handbook, and some coaching prompts as well that you use maybe in your training, right? That's how you would build a coach to kind of like use that in some of your training. So a lot of ideas in here. I'll put this in the resources. But this piece about building your knowledge base is essential when it comes to building your custom GPT and Google Gem. So make sure you give it some time and thought. And hey, you know what? Sometimes in that testing process, you might find out, oh, I don't have enough data, or maybe I have too much data. That's going to come up in testing. So this is an iterative process, right? Meaning you are going to build something, test it, review it, and then review it again, right? You're going to work on the prompt, work on the data to get it right before you actually use it. So this is pretty common when you're building AI assistants, and the data is certainly, this data in your knowledge base is certainly a large part of that. Okay, a quick note on testing your custom GPT or Google Gem. You should test it before you share it. Simple as that. You should use those real questions that you kind of thought of before to test it to see how does it respond? What is it? Is it doing the task that it was designed to do, and so on? You should also try to break it. I think this is more one of the fun things to do. Give it edge case questions. Ask it things that maybe nobody would ask, and see what kind of response that it gets. So you find the boundaries and see if it's behaving in a way that is outside of the way that you designed it, right? Remember, we talked about putting boundaries on it. Check what happens when the answer isn't in a knowledge base. Did it make something up, or did it say it doesn't know? Okay, that's going to give you an idea of how well it's doing with its hallucinations. The process in testing, the reason you do so much testing is because you want to give feedback, right? And you want to iterate on it. This is specifically true if you are building this AI assistant for somebody else in your organization. If other people are going to use it, you want to get feedback on it. So give it to people who didn't build it. Right? They're going to ask questions at your to your assistant you would never think to ask. Okay, and they're going to get responses that you probably haven't tested. Okay, have them report back to you on how it worked. You can simply ask them what worked well and what didn't, and that's going to give you information to improve it for future uses. So share it with one or two people first before you ever roll it out broadly. Right? Ask users to flag when it gives unhelpful, wrong answers. Revisit the instructions when you notice a pattern of bad outputs. Right? So you have lots of people complaining about the outputs being too wordy. It's time to go fix it, right? I think that's always probably one of the top ones. Or maybe it's just giving irrelevant information. That's a sign that the data that you've put in isn't useful enough for the AI assistant. And then always update the knowledge base when policies, processes, and content changes. Here's the thing about these tools. They don't change as your work changes. And so once you build them and start using them and you have them out into the wild, you do have to manage them. Now with AI assistants, you don't have to manage them nearly as much as maybe say an AI agent. But you do have to remember that, hey, these things have been trained with a certain amount of knowledge. Our work changes. It's not static. And so when something changes in your work, think about the data that that AI assistant has access to, and then make a plan to go update it so it stays current and useful for the people that are using it. So that is how to build your custom GPT or Google Gem. Next up, I'll give you a quick review of documentation and why it's important to document what your AI assistant does so that way others understand how and when to use it as well. Okay, let's talk about no-code AI agent builders and building simple AI agents. Before we do that, I need to do a quick overview on the difference between AI assistants and AI agents. Now, this is not a course where we go deep into all the different types of agents. Of course, there are courses that do that. No, but we do need to really differentiate between AI assistants and AI agents. So we set the stage for what we're going to do in this section. So a quick overview. AI assistants are AI tools that respond to you. So you're guiding the AI through a task. You're telling it what you want. You're going back and forth in a conversation, really driving the workflow to get to a certain output. Sometimes they offer access to external tools, but not often. You're not really connecting to things like, email and Slack and so on. And oftentimes you're getting, ideas, drafts, text, right? So the AI assistant is going to give you a plan, but you actually do the work. Whereas with AI agents, the agent both creates the plan and execute it, i.e. does the work. So AI agents are going to take a set of actions on their own. It's going to decide what work to do based on what you tell it. And it's going to do multiple steps in that workflow. So it can do many different types of things at once. It is going to use tools. So it may search the web. It might run some code. It could call a calculator to calculate complex functions. The list goes on. Some of these agents connect to hundreds of tools, right? And then the output is like the completion of the task. So it's not just answers. So let's look at what that actually looks like in practice. A quick example here. I'm going to show you, this is ChatGPT. I've put in this prompt. I said, I'm launching a new product, Iron Coffee. Create a competitor analysis of the market in the US, identifying how I should position the brand, then create a slide deck with recommendations for brand strategy and a launch plan. So I'm asking it to do quite a bit of work here. Normally I would advise break down a prompt like this. This is too much, but for the sake of the example today, I want to show you what that looks like. So I put it into ChatGPT. It's going to give me the competitor analysis. Okay, it'll cite some things. So it's giving me this market context. And you see high protein beverages are a trend right now. So the fastest growing formats are ready to drink and go functional drink. So I've got some good information, not a lot, but some. I've got my premier competitor groups. It gives me examples of Super Coffee, Brewst, I guess. I don't even know these brands, where they come from, but it does cite it. Okay. So it gives me different example of protein shake brands entering the coffee space, blah, blah, blah. So I've got a lot. It gives me a competitive positioning map. So it's giving me answers, which could be helpful. And it gives me recommended positioning. Great. This is a lot to read, and I'm not going to go through all of this. But then here's the key part. It gives me a slide deck structure. So now it's giving me an output, or excuse me, an outline of what my slide deck could look like. That's 12 plans. So that's 12 slides and an outline plan. And then it gives me a critical insight. So kind of interesting. That's useful, right? But you'll notice it hasn't done the task. I said create a slide deck. It can't do that. It's not connected to a slide deck here. So let's see what this looks like in an agent. So I have given, this is Manus AI, by the way. This is an agent that is owned by Facebook. This is a general purpose agent, okay? This is not an agent that comes from a no-code platform. This is far more powerful. There are a lot of these general agents that are on the market right now. Manus is one of them. And I'll link in the comments if you've never tried this before, or in the resources, you can give this a shot. So you can see here already same prompt but completely different approach. It's going to research the consumer trends, and by the way, it breaks down the steps it's taken here. Then it's going to analyze the competitors. So again, breaking down the task into smaller steps. It decided to do this on its own, right? I didn't tell it how to do it. Then it's going to write the slide deck content. So based on that information, it's writing it, and then it's generating the slide deck presentation. So you can see the outline right here, okay? And we have a lot more detail. And now we have the final result. So when we talk about AI agents, they are doing a task, okay? And you can see here, we have the full output. And this is, let's see, how many slides? 10 slides with a conclusion and the ability I can add more. I can fix it here in the actual platform. I could edit it and so on. So we have gotten to the end so much quicker than we would with a regular AI assistant. And that's really the difference. Now, the reality is on no-code platforms, you're not building this type of powerful AI agent. You're building something a lot smaller. This is an example of Google Workspace. If you pay for Google, you can get access to Google Workspace to make small no-code agents on their platform. I'll link to this if you want to explore more. And you can see they have templates here. These are small AI agents that you make. So get a daily summary of unread emails, notify me about emails from key people. And it shows you some of the tools you'll use. You'll use Gmail, you'll use Calendar. Actually, don't quite know what that tool is, maybe Gemini, and so on. So these are smaller AI agents that you build, and they're going to be less powerful than the mainstream ones like I just showed you. But the key differentiator between AI assistants and these AI agents that you build are the fact that one, they are going to access tools and systems. These systems are platforms that you work with every single day. So like Slack, Notion, Gmail, it really depends on your organization. And they're going to take the action for you. So the end result is a job done, not just an output that you copy and paste elsewhere. So that is the difference. Now let's get deeper into how to think about these no-code AI agent builder platforms. Ooh, that's a mouthful, but we're going to do it. So let's talk about building AI agents using no-code platforms. There's a lot of buzzwords in there, but what you're looking at right here is Zapier. They are an AI automation platform where you can build AI agents without having to know how to code or program. And this is what it looks like when you log in to build your AI agent. Now let's move over to Lindy. This is also an AI agent building platform for people who have no programming or developer experience. You can use natural language to build out your AI agent. And this is Make.com, another AI automation platform that you can use to build your AI agent. So what's the first thing you notice about all three of those platforms? Well, they are all different. Their approach to building AI agents using a no-code approach is very different. And that is the reality across many no-code AI agent tools. We have a list of common platforms over here. We see Zapier that I just talked about, NAN, Make, Lindy, Relay, Google Workflow, Mind Studio, and Gumloop. And those are just a handful of ones that I picked as demos here. The reality is there are many, many more of these. And one thing that they all have in common, you can build AI agents without knowing how to code. There's no code necessary. The other thing they have in common, they're all completely different in their approach to doing it. Their UI is different, how you access the tools is different, and so on. And so that makes it really challenging as a newcomer to start building AI agents on their platform. And so the thing that they're going to allow you to do on any of these platforms, though, is to build simple AI agents that, one, connect to data and other systems, because AI agents, what differentiates them from AI assistants are the fact that they connect to these data and take action. So they're going to take action oftentimes in these systems to do tasks for you. So they're going to send Slacks on your behalf, or they're going to write emails on your behalf, or they're going to post information to a database on your behalf. In order to do that, they have to connect to other systems. And these platforms, these no-code platforms, are going to give you the tools to connect to them. Instead of being a developer and having to go on the back end and connect all, write all the code to connect them, you're just going to connect them in a flowchart. They use rules and automation plus AI. Fun fact, a lot of the agents out there don't just use AI. They also rely on automation, which are rule-based processes. So do this, not this. If this, then this. That is what automation is. It's been around for decades now, well before generative AI kind of came to the masses. And what these tools do is they combine automation with AI to make very powerful AI agents. Now, the agents you make on these platforms can be semi-autonomous, meaning they will run and you review the output, or they can be autonomous. They just run and you spot check the output sometimes. Whether it's autonomous or semi-autonomous really depends on the task. And oftentimes the agents that you build on these platforms are used for team productivity. Now, in the beginning, you are likely building an agent for yourself, but to justify the cost of using these platforms, you really need to start building for your team and finding opportunities on your team to automate some of the workflows and free up time. So that's why you use no-code agent builders and what you get from using them. Now, here's the reality. With all these differences between the tools, I'm not going to be teaching you tools, okay? I will use some of the platforms to demonstrate how to build an AI agent, but the reality is I want you focused on the platform components. That's what I'm going to be teaching in the next video here, where I'm going to break down all the pieces of these no-code platforms. So that way, no matter the tool you use, you can jump in, familiarize yourself, and build an AI agent, okay? We are starting small. You're going to hear me say that a lot. We start small with these AI agents, and that's because they can go wrong really easily. So by knowing these platform components, you're going to be able to get in and build any type of simple, small AI agent to get you started. The reality is that learning how to think about AI agents is more important than learning the platform, because these platforms are going to change. Their UI is constantly changing, so how we interact with them. And quite honestly, some may not even make it in the long run. We are seeing more powerful agents on the market right now that do incredible things. And there's still a debate on whether or not we need to create our own agents, which gives us a lot of control and customization, or if we should just use the more powerful agents like Claude Code, Claude Cowork, Manus that are already on the market. Now, that is a discussion for a different class. If you've not taken an AI agent class before on managing AI agents and choosing the right agents, I highly recommend you do so, because that information is super important. For this class, we are only focused on building those customized AI agents on no-code AI agent platforms. Gosh, I've said AI agent a lot in this video. So I'm going to teach you how to think about these AI agents and the key components, so that way you can just drop into any no-code agent building platform and get started building your AI agent. So up next, let's talk about those key platform components. Okay, let's do a quick deep dive on some of these key platform components that are just going to make it easier for you to jump into any no-code AI agent builder platform and get started, because there is a bit of a learning curve when it comes to building AI agents on these platforms. Although we say now no-code, it doesn't mean non-technical. And so knowing these components is just going to make it a little bit easier to both choose an AI agent no-code builder and also work through them and get up to speed on them. So the first thing you should know is that you build your AI agent either through a chat builder feature or a workflow builder. Let's look at what that means. So right here we have Zapier, and when you click on their button that says create an agent, you're going to get a box like this, and you can see here it says create a custom agent. What would you like this agent to do? And then you fill out and describe exactly what you want the agent to do, and from there it's going to then create an AI agent based on your description. So that's what we call it, like a chat workflow builder. You're going to do everything through a chat experience. So you're working with an AI to build AI. We saw something similar when we looked at the Custom GPT earlier. There was the option to build through chat. Um, the downside of this is it's great to get started, but the downside is it's harder to troubleshoot when things go wrong. So some considerations. It's great to get you started, and it really works great on simple applications. Then we have the other end of the spectrum where it's a workflow builder, where you're actually creating step by step what you're going to tell your agent what to do at every single step. It's like creating a flow chart, but on every step you have a set of tools that you need to select and decide what your agent should do. So should it take an action? Should it take a step? Should it follow a rule? Should it summarize information, right? All of that kind of stuff. So you are the one responsible for figuring that out. Example here, like in this case, you can add a knowledge base. Great. Now your tool, if you were to upload files, it would have access to a knowledge base. Here you can add a tool that it can connect to get information, right? And you can see there's tons of tools here. This is what we refer to as the integrations. Every single platform is going to have access to tools / integrations. What they're referring to are systems and data that the agent can use. Now, keep in mind, one of the things that separates AI agents from AI assistants is their access to tools, right? They can take action on your behalf. In order to take action on something like creating a Slack message and responding to Slack replies autonomously, it has to have access to Slack. So you would find Slack in the integrations here. And yeah, you would select that tool, and then you would select what action you want the agent to take based on that tool. Now, I'm not going to get into the details here. I really just want to show you the differences in the way that you build a agent on these platforms. And so when you're figuring out, how to build AI agents, try out different platforms to see like what works best for you. This gives you more control, but it does mean you need to learn a lot about how these tools work. The chat mode gives you a lot of flexibility, and you don't have to know how the tools work so much. You can just, update the chat. But it makes it harder to have control and also to troubleshoot when things go wrong. Now, there are other platforms that combine both. This is an example here of Lindy. Lindy has both a chat builder and a workflow editor. So the ability, again, you'll see this is similar to Make. When I jumped over there, I was defining every step. In this case, every step is defined here. The email is received. It's going to loop over emails, which means it's going to constantly look at a new email that comes in, say, okay, what is this? Then it's going to categorize the email and label it and so on. So this is an automation flow right here. This is a rule. When an email is received, it's going to review it. That is a rule. That's not AI right there. That is a automation. The agent, the AI comes in this agent space where the AI reads the email and assigns a label to it based on the content. So if I wanted to, I could tell the agent, say, add a step where the agent creates a draft email based on the contents to respond, right? So it would then take the steps to do that. So I'm not going to do that right now, but that just gives you an idea of just kind of some of the different options of how you build an AI agent in these platforms. So we talked about integrations. All of these tools, all of these platforms have integrations, and you can think of them as connections. That's what Zapier calls them, connections to other platforms, other systems. These are going to be the systems that you use in the workplace, right? You might use Outlook, you might use Outlook Calendar. You can see here it connects to Gmail, Google Calendar. Your agent may need to connect to some of these systems in order to either A, use the data, or B, take an action, right? And so this is a critical piece of building AI agents. You need to be thinking, do I have permission to connect to these systems inside my organization, right? And what data am I going to be using for in these connections? Because sometimes you don't always know what the data is, and sometimes and when you connect, these systems want access to a lot of data, and depending on your organization, you may not have permissions for that. So this is just a reminder to check in with your company to find out, what data you're allowed to connect to and what data you are not allowed to connect to. So this is a large part of the exercise of building AI agents, is thinking through these systems. That's why when I talk about AI, when you work in AI future jobs, you have one of the skills you need is systems thinking. How does the systems fit together? What's inside of these systems that you're connecting to? And what are the permissions around that? So Those are some of the ways that you, some of the things to consider on around integration. Every single agent platform offers integrations to different tools, and they're all going to be popular tools that you use in the workplace. Now, if you have like a custom tool that you're using inside your organization, your agent probably won't connect to that if it's been custom built, but some of the bigger well-known names certainly. The other thing you're going to want to get familiar with is documentation. So documentation is essentially the instructions on how to use the platform. So every single platform is going to have documentation to help you learn how to use their systems. So I'm going to go under create agents here, and it's going to walk you through how to build an agent in Zapier Agents. And this is so helpful. Documentation is something that all engineers and developers refer to, right? Whenever they're new to a system, they go to the documentation. It is important that you familiarize yourself with this because you are going to get stuck. You're always going to get stuck when you're building AI agents, and that is just normal. You have to kind of prepare for that. And so documentation is going to both teach you how to use the platform, the tools, the nuances. If you're building step by step, right, then it's going to teach you that, but it's also going to help you get unstuck. And in a future video, when we demo, we'll teach you some tips on getting unstuck with AI agents. The other thing you should know about is templates. Every single agent builder is going to have templates because it's difficult to start from scratch. You can, but it's kind of hard. So it's helpful to have templates. And you can see when we go over to Zapier, they list all their templates here, right? We have tons of templates over here. And if I click on one of these, it'll put in the prompt for me. So now it's put in the prompt, and I can say, use this prompt, and it will create the AI agent for me from that. We have different ones, and you can explore here. And this is just a great way to get to know different types of agents and figure out what you can do. Whenever you click on these, you can see the action that it's taking and the integrations that it has. So this is integrated with Gmail. This is integrated with, I'm seeing the Google Spreadsheets icon right here. They all have little icons that tell you what the integration is going to be. We have a Slack integration here. So get familiar with templates. Every single platform is going to have templates. You'll even find them just on the landing page for the platform. They're going to show all the different templates. So I encourage you, when you are just starting out, pick a template that matches your use case, or if you don't have a use case yet, just play with a template. It's going to teach you about how the platform works and how you should think about building that type of agent. Lastly, we have credits. So credits are like the pricing system for an AI agent. It costs money to use AI agents, to build them and to run them, to test them, to have them out in the wild. And spoiler alert, you are going to run out of credits building in your first AI agent on these platforms. So you will likely have to upgrade. There's really no getting around that unless you're building the smallest agent ever. And even then, you're going to run out of credits to run it. So every platform is going to have a different plan. It's going to have a different amount of credits, and they are going to charge you differently for how the AI agent works between platforms. So if that's confusing, welcome. A lot of these platforms are still trying to figure out how to charge their clients, their customers, for AI usage, because when you use a model, it costs money to both send information to the model and receive information from the model. So all of these companies have to pay that, and they have to find a way to get money from you to pay for those bills. So just a heads up, you can see over here on my free plan, I have activities. That means I haven't really used much in the credits, but you can even say it says upgrade, right? So these are credits. I don't know. It says under activities, this is the monthly amount of activities all agents can perform on your behalf. So they're counting things by activities, not necessarily credits. But I'll go over to the Lindy agent and show you my credits over there. So you can see here, we're back on the Lindy agent, and we have my builder here. It's already started to build. Like you can see, it's breaking down things. It was responding to some of my requests before. And so if we go over to the menu, so if we go over to our menu over here and we come down here, credits remaining, you can see I have about 4,488 credits left out of 5,000. And those credits just restarted because it's the beginning of the month. I pay for Lindy, and that's only because of my job. I have to demo this a lot, all these agents a lot. So this is one I pay for. And you can see here, I have been moving through these credits, and I'm only about 5 days into the month. So every platform is going to use credits, some version of credits, and that is going to determine how much mileage you get out of that agent, and you are likely going to have to upgrade. So something to keep in mind. That's not something that is going to be easy to figure out between platforms, but keep in mind as you build and run agents and as you test agents, it does cost. So if you are on a free plan, it's not necessarily it's not going to be free for very long. So that is, those are the common components when you are working with AI agent platforms across all different platforms. They're going to be different, but you want to pay attention to these pieces in order to learn how these platforms work and work on making your first couple of agents. Okay, I want to set some expectations before you start building your AI agent because the term no code can be kind of misleading. Oftentimes we hear no code and we think, okay, great, I can just plug and play and get started. But that is not the reality when it comes to AI, building AI agents on these platforms. The reality is you don't need to know how to code, but you do have to understand some of the technical elements to use these, to build these AI agents. And also you have to understand the workflow that you are trying to automate. So the takeaway here is that building AI agents isn't just plug and play, right? It does take time to learn the platform, to learn the systems, to learn the work that you are trying to do. So set your expectations. Things you should know. No code is still going to require you to understand APIs, triggers, and data structures. Guess what? That is completely learnable. It's basically a YouTube away and maybe some extra experimentation, okay? You can watch YouTube videos on that. The platforms vary in complexity. So a platform like NAN is going to be more technical than a platform like Make or Zapier. Okay, just a heads up, the platform you use also is going to determine your experience building AI agents and the effectiveness in which you can do it. You also have to know your workflow before you automate. I have another video on that, but you need to know what you're trying to automate. Now, if you're like, hey, I just want to get in and build AI agents, that's cool too, but just know that in order to have success with this, you have to map the agent to the workflow. Okay. You also need to know how to prompt well, and you need to understand the data and systems that you connect to. So I have a couple of questions down here to reflect on before you build, to make sure that you're ready to build with AI agents. I'm going to drop these into the resources as well, so you have them. But questions like, do I understand the workflow, start to finish? If not, go map it out, right? What tools do I need to connect? If you don't know, then make a list of all the systems you might need to connect to and make sure that you have, the permissions from your company to connect to them as well, and so on. So I'll take some time to review those questions. The other thing I want to point you to is that there are some common terms that are used in no-code platforms. We have concepts and then we have terminology. And so there's really 5 big concepts you have to understand when you are working with AI agents, and that is triggers, data, prompt, variables, and actions. Now, data and prompt are probably the most common terms if you've already worked with AI stuff, so you understand that. But we have triggers. Triggers are what kicks off the event that starts the agent, puts the agent in action, right? Then we have actions. This is what the agent does after it's processed information. And then we have variables where the agent is going to store information for later. Now, when you're first starting out, you probably won't use variables, but you may see them pop up in the template that you use. So, can you learn this? Absolutely. Can you watch a YouTube video that's going to break this down for you? 100%. Just build that into your expectation when it comes to learning these no-code platforms. And then also I have a list of common terms that we use throughout this process of building no-code AI agents, and I will drop those into the resources as well. And you know what? You can always ask ChatGPT to explain it like you're 5, and that will help as well. So these are just a little bit of framework for understanding what the learning experience is like when you are new to no-code AI platforms. And hopefully this will make the learning journey just a little bit smoother for you. Okay, so you've learned about the different platforms and the different components. Now it's time to choose one. Which one do you choose? This is a common question, and the short answer is that you choose the one that your workplace provides. But if your workplace does not provide one and you're just experimenting, then you're going to need to do some work to figure out which one is the right one for you. So the no-code platform that you choose is really going to be dependent on your technical level and the use case, i.e. the AI agent that you're trying to build, the workflow that you're trying to automate. Now, in this course, we advocate for starting simple. This is a beginner course for building AI agents with no-code platform. So we're going to take a simple use case. And most simple agents for the workplace really fall into kind of three categories. One, you're going to move information between tools, right? So between systems, you're going to transfer information, maybe transform it along the way. You might summarize, analyze, or draft some content, or you might route or categorize requests, or you might do all three in one agent. Those are some of the tasks that you might do. And in these cases, you will be using a combination of automation, which are rules, and AI. Now, this can be surprising because we've been calling them AI agents, and we looked at Manus AI earlier, and Manus AI is not a no-code AI agent builder. It's just an agent, and Manus AI makes all its decisions on its own, right? AI is driving that. There's not a lot of rules behind that. But what you're building is going to have some automation and rules. So what I mean is, there's an example down here of this is from Lindy. This is the workflow builder, and you can see here that automation I've drawn a square around where the automation piece is, so you can see what I'm referring to as automation. Those are rules. On a recurring schedule, do this. Search the internet for this, and then once you have that, send a summary. Okay, now that summary uses AI. They use the capabilities of an AI model to summarize the email. Okay, now this is a great example of what it looks like on the inside when you're building an AI agent. You may be actually just building a lot of rules with a small piece of AI in that, and that's totally okay. That is still an AI agent, right? It is still automating a workflow. But as you build these agents, you have to think through like what's a rule and what is AI. Okay. And again, when you start with templates, it's going to make it clear what pieces are rules and what pieces of AI, what pieces are AI. But something to consider, because as you get more experience with these no-code builders, you will start to find that you can do more and more with just purely AI. However, in the beginning, when we are starting small, you are using a combination of rules and AI. And so you want to look for a platform that gives you that flexibility to use rules and AI as well. Now, the other piece is you want to make sure that you are picking a user interface that works best with your existing level of experience with these technical capabilities. This matters because what you're looking at over here is N8N. This is really a platform more for developers. It is a no-code AI agent platform. But as you can see, there is a lot more going on here that you need to build from scratch. So you could use this platform if you feel technically inclined. But if you're just getting started and you don't have much of that technical background, you may want something that uses one of these AI builders, right? So you just tell the chatbot what you want built and it builds them. Or you might want something where you're actually using the workflow builder as well, so you can customize and learn that as well. That decision is really going to be up to you, but these are things to think about. I kind of describe it as, do you want to design step by step, like every single piece, or do you want AI to figure out the steps and you just tell it what you want? That answer is going to depend on what tool you want to use. And unfortunately, you're just going to have to get into these tools and play around to figure out which one works best for you at your current level. So build that into your learning process. There are a lot of tools out there. All of them offer the option to do a free demo, a trial for a couple of days, and that'll help you get started with choosing the right tool. Okay, let's talk about the work you need to do before you actually build your AI agent. And by this point, it should sound very familiar that we are going to do some work before we build, because the reality is building AI tools fails when you don't plan for it. This is especially true if you're building tools for other people. People get really caught up in the idea of having an agent, and what happens is they will just build the agent, and then it doesn't actually do the job it's supposed to do. And that's because they haven't taken the time to build now, or to plan beforehand. Now, Here's the reality. In the beginning, you're probably just going to experiment with building a simple agent from a template for your own purposes. For that, you probably don't need a plan. You're just tinkering. But when you actually go to build AI agents for your team and to actually get value out of them, you need to plan beforehand. And this is exactly what you need to be doing. So the first thing is you need to look at the work already being done by humans. Okay. It's tempting to ask, what kind of agent should we build? But the reality is you need to be asking, what are people trying to do now? What are they trying to do now? And what do we need an agent to do? Okay. So the framing is around the jobs to be done. You need to be able to define the job that your agent is supposed to do. So oftentimes we talk in terms of capabilities. Well, we need it to summarize emails. Okay, you need an agent to summarize emails. For what goal? Right? So instead of talking about the task, you need to talk about the job. We need an agent to ensure every customer issue is categorized and routed within 5 minutes of arrival. Excellent. Now you have a goal. And this goal is going to make it so you can measure how effective your AI agent is. Okay. So you are getting in a habit right now of defining what the goals are. You're going to put that into your workflow, your prompts. You're going to measure against it when you test your agent and so on. So this is an exercise we do, in workshops all the time to define the jobs to be done, because your goal is to pick the right workflow. Not every workflow needs an AI agent. Not every workflow needs to be automated. Okay. And when we talk about a workflow, that means this is a task, a job that has a clear start and clear steps and happen in roughly the same order and have a defined end state. You need to be able to define what good looks like. Okay. So you're looking for work that repeats itself, right? So it's the same task more than once. There's a pattern. It has a defined output. You can describe what done looks like in one sentence. If you cannot describe the output, you are not ready to build an AI agent. It has real inputs the agent can access. There's a file, a form, a tool, an API. You do not want to build an agent if everything is living in someone's head. Right? There's a lot of work where the knowledge lives in someone's head. That's great. Don't build an AI agent for that. And you want to make sure it's low risk. That means it's not consumer facing. It doesn't involve money, employment, or human judgment, etc. Okay. You are not building a payment system with your AI no code agent that you're going to deploy outside of the organization on your own. You're not building that. You need engineering support for that and a lot of security as well. So you want to make sure it's a low risk situation. Then again, we want to define the work. So an example, I want you to define the steps. What should the AI agent do? Write out the steps. Example, the email drafter agent. I wanted an agent to review my incoming emails. I want to create a response to each one, add the draft to my inbox, in my draft inbox, right? I didn't say respond and send it. I want a human in the loop where the agent reviews it, analyzes it, and adds it to my inbox, and I will review it. Okay. And then define that success criteria. We just talked about that, but really get into the details. What does it look like when it's done? What's the quality of it? Does it need to sound like you? Does it need to be 100% factually accurate? That is actually not possible, just so you know. So then if 100% is inaccurate, what will you settle for? Okay, these are awkward decisions to make, but this is part of building AI tools. You define the format. What does the job end with? Like, is it a Slack message, a PDF? Is it added to a spreadsheet? And then authority, is the agent allowed to execute? So in this case, should it send the email or just suggest, save a draft? Okay, this is part of human in the loop. How much autonomy does it have? So then what this looks like is I want you to map the workflow. We did it kind of in the steps up there, but then you have this workflow here, and it's a little off the screen, but email is received. Agent analyzes email. Agent drafts a response. Agent creates an email response in drafts in my inbox, and a person reviews it and sends it. That right there is the workflow. And the reason you do this is because you are going to map an AI agent step by step to this, or you're going to give a platform builder a prompt that tells it what to build. And this is what you are building. Okay. That is why you do all this work. You have clarity on what you are building. Also, if you're working with a team of people, they're going to have questions. All right. So you can say, this is exactly what the AI agent will do. This is going to build trust. This is going to build transparency, and it's going to help you persuade skeptical people. So quick example of an ideal workflow versus not a good workflow. An ideal workflow, summarize inbound complaint emails. So what's the trigger? The trigger is what kicks off your agent. So it could be a human prompting things like you saw in my example before with Manus, or oftentimes with no code agents, it is a system, right? So something happens in a system, an email arrives in your inbox, the agent starts, okay? You will define this. But in this case, the trigger is an email arrives in a specific inbox. The steps of the agent are to read, extract the issue, summarize, and tag it. And the end state is a summary filed and added to a spreadsheet. So you can imagine if you have a heavy inbox and you're just tracking what people are writing in about, you could just have the agent summarize everything, put it in a spreadsheet, and easily scan it with categories. Okay. Why does this work as an ideal workflow? Well, it's the same steps every time. You have a clear output. Agent has full access to the inbox. Okay. That is an ideal workflow. Everything can be seen and accomplished by an agent. Example of not a good workflow. This is one that an email agent that responds to all complaints. So imagine you have a complaint inbox and it's overflowing with complaints from a product. Don't worry, we've all worked on those things. The trigger, an email arrives in a specific inbox. Okay, so same trigger. The steps for the AI agent to take is that it reads and responds to every complaint. It's not making drafts, it's just responding every single time. The end state, well, the quality is going to vary every time. You can't say how it should respond to every complaint because you don't know the shape of every complaint, right? This is also high risk. This is not a good workflow because it's high risk. There is no human in the loop to basically verify what the responses are. You put your brand at risk and it's customer facing. Absolutely terrible workflow. Don't choose this. Why it doesn't work, no consistent quality, requires undocumented judgment and high risk, right? We don't have an overview of what how we should respond to all complaints because we probably don't know what all complaints are. So that is an example of how you determine what your AI agent should do. And you have to do this pre-work before you build. Now, that's when you're building actual tools. For this course, if you're, I'm going to tell you, I want you to just get in and use a template and work with it and play with it to get a feel for the code platforms first. That's fine. But when you actually go to build something real for you or your team, this is the type of work to do beforehand. And this is what's going to save you time, money, and honestly, just headaches down the road by doing this work up front. This is what I did for 8 years as a product designer on AI tools. So this is a very small version of it, but this is going to help you as you build the AI agent. Now, one thing you're going to hear me say over and over is that you need to start small when it comes to building AI agents. And that's for the simple reason that the bigger you start, the more mistakes that you will have. Because when you build AI agents, you're going to spend a lot of time in what's called an iteration cycle. That means you're going to build them, you're going to test them, you're going to review the results, and then you are going to iterate again and build and test and review and iterate. And this goes on until you've got it right. Your first agent is likely not going to be right. There are going to be things wrong with it. And so when you start small, you have fewer problems to chase down, to fix, and so on. And you can even see kind of the difference between small and large projects just from that visual down below between these two canvases here. These are both an email filter, email triage agent, but one does a lot more than the other one. One's just categorizing, the other one is responding, it's creating events, it's summarizing newsletters and posting them to a spreadsheet, and so on. And it's actually really great. But there are lots of problems to troubleshoot and it takes longer to get it right. And there's a lot of frustrations in between. So I want you to start small when you are building out your first or even second AI agent. So why do we start small? One, you reduce the risk. Fewer things are going to go wrong. And if a mistake is made, the damage is really limited. And when we are talking about building agents, we're talking about giving it access to systems and data that you may not know what exactly you're getting from those systems and data. So limit the amount of mistakes and risk by starting smaller. You build trust too. So when you are getting to a result faster and you're getting an AI agent up and running, even if it's small, that builds trust with other people who may not know what exactly you're doing. Leaders can see the value more and you create proof, right? Proof of concept in your environment, and then you can build from there. The goal is not to build the whole thing at once. It's to piece it, do it in pieces. It improves clarity. You're going to focus on one clear problem. You're going to also learn what that agent is good at, right? You're going to discover the gaps. You're going to discover your assumptions. You're going to get better design out of it too, right? Because people will go and use your agent. Maybe if this is an agent that's not just for you, people might use it and find out, oh, this actually doesn't fit what they need, right? So you need to start small. It also saves time and money. these agents cost money to run, as we've talked about. So if you are not spending all of your credits fixing mistakes and making huge complex agents, you are not going to waste more credits, and i.e. money. So you're only scaling what proves useful. It is just really important that you remember this because it can be tempting to go big, right? After all, you can tell the agent everything you want to build and you can build it out in workflows, right? I just want to give you an idea of really what I mean here. So here's the difference between, we have two kind of workflows here. We have analyze my incoming emails, label them by category, create a draft response. That's kind of the one that we started with. Now imagine you're doing that, but you're responding. You're not drafting, responding to all incoming emails. You're adding events to the calendar and you're deleting emails that aren't considered a priority. Okay, sounds like kind of an email assistant, right? Let's look at what those problems might look like. So analyze my incoming emails. Here's some things that could go wrong, right? They might be under the wrong category. The drafts generated for the emails it might miscategorize and then drafts a response that's not needed. The tone might not be right, so the quality might be bad. You might have to fix that. And then the volume. So for every draft of email, it's going to flood your drafts folder. Maybe not something that's like super big risk, but maybe that's annoying to you. Okay. These are some of the things that could go wrong on your first agent that you're building. Doable to fix them. Now let's look at that other one. Look at all the things that could go wrong with that other one. So now more complexity, more problems. And you can just see from this list how much we've got there, right? I'm not going to read this all. You can pause to read this. But these are some of the things that could go wrong. When I say could go wrong, meaning you will run your agent, do a test with it, and you will find these problems, and you're going to have to go fix every single one of these. So this is why we start small. We start small to make sure it fits, and then we make sure it works. People like it, and then we build on it. Okay. That is how we build simple no code AI agents. All right. Now let's move forward, starting small and building our first AI agent. Okay, let's create a small email agent on Lindy AI. So this is a no-code platform that I'm using. I have no affiliation with them. I just demo a lot. So I picked them because they actually have a hybrid AI agent builder in chat and a workflow. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. I am going to start by saying this is an exercise to demo how to build AI agents. You won't necessarily build this yourself. So I'm not going to walk through all the pieces. What I am going to walk through is how you get started and how you troubleshoot an AI agent because you are going to get stuck. You are going to run into errors. This is part of building AI tools. So you have to kind of get in that mindset. So for this AI agent, I'm going to use a template because we're going to follow my use case of building an email responder where it creates drafts to incoming emails. So I'm going to go down to my templates down here, and you can see we have a lot of templates down here. And I'm going to look, do we have an email responder? We don't. So I'm actually going to search email responder here. Email responder, automate email replies. Excellent. I love this. And I'm going to select that. It's going to tell me basically what the template is, how it works, and it's going to tell me the trigger. So remember, this is how your AI agents get started. Well, it gets started by receiving an email in my inbox. It's going to tell me some of the tools that it uses. They say apps or integrations, tools, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just going to click add. And then it's going to start it's going to start the process of adding it to my account. So we're going to do that here. Okay, so here is the full email agent, and you can see we have a lot of different pieces here. So on the left, we have our AI agent builder where you can, ask it to add or delete things. On the right, we have our workflow right here. Now, here's a way to kind of orient yourself. One, on this one, it's giving us, it created this flow. You see that it's got little notes here that tell you how this works. And actually on this one, because it's a template, they have a full guide on how to set it up, which is great because that is your documentation. So anytime you see documentation, click on it. You can familiarize yourself with how to do this. And you can see it's breaking it down step by step. So if you're like, wait, what's a knowledge base? We talked about this and when we talked about custom GPTs, but you can add a knowledge base here and it's going to walk you through how that works, right? So it's great that this template actually has documentation. And this is why we start with the template. Um, but let's take a look at kind of what to expect no matter the AI agent builder that you use. This is automation right here. When you see an arrow like this is automation, right? You are telling it, do this, do this, do this, do this. Within these pieces is where where they use AI. So here you have a knowledge base. You're going to select the knowledge base that you're using. So if you want your AI agent to answer questions from in an email from a knowledge base, you would select it. Could be a website, could be files you upload. You could connect it to Google Drive and so on. But you're going to see every time you click into one of these steps, there's going to be information to fill out. Every single AI tool builder is going to have this. So when you're building agents, there is information inside of each step, and they're all going to be different depending on the step. So you can select the model that you want to use. Selecting fastest is always my favorite. You can select how it searches the AI database. So you can set it to automatically, or you can do it yourself, right? I'm not going into detail because everything in here is really going to depend on your task. What I want you to know is that when you see step by step flows like this, you need to click into them and follow the instructions here. Okay. And they're all going to be different. And you can, over here, it says this is where you define when the agent takes a path. Okay. So it says go down this path if you found an email response in the context of the knowledge base or answer to the emailer's question, right? So the idea here is that if you found a response, you would write a response here, right? And then you would define where it says after email sent and after reply received, what happens next. Now, we're not going to add any steps here because remember, I said start small. You have to start small when it comes to building these AI agents. And so you want to what I mean by that is you need to start with making all of this part work before you add anything else. Okay. And then we have some other stuff over here. Show info. I don't even know what this part is. It's interesting to see that here. And so I would kind of question, like, what are these pieces? I don't think, I don't think you need that right away. So you could even delete that piece if you're not sure what it is. That would be my next step. Okay. So over here, we have the agent builder, right? So you could even ask, if you look over here, you've got a little warning sign. There's a little triangle over here. You could say, what errors do I have and how do I fix them? Now, this is part of the troubleshooting that we'll cover in depth in the next video. But you can see this is how the agent builder works with the workflow here. Okay. So it's going to look at the context of this, and it's going to give you a breakdown of what you should do. Now, what's interesting here is that you may be like, you may read this and be like, respond node has no Gmail auth set. The send to Gmail action has auth nil, and be like, what does that even mean? Well, great question. We will look at this in the next video when we troubleshoot. But this is how we get from start to template and how to start building out this AI agent. You have to be able to fill in all of these steps. And if you don't know what those are, the documentation will definitely help you walk through that. Okay. This is why we start simple, because there's a lot of information to learn within all of these steps. But bit by bit, you will get there. And when you get stuck, there are many ways to help you get unstuck. I'll see you in the next video. Okay. One thing to know about building AI agents is that you will get stuck. That will always happen. Okay. So that is why we have a couple of options to help you get unstuck and essentially learn how to build this agent and get it into production. By going into production, I just mean be able to use the AI agent. So as we've established already in the previous video, you could use a agent builder to ask what the problem is and to help you troubleshoot that. Now, a couple of things. Not every single platform is going to have a chatbot that can help you get unstuck. The other thing is that these agent builders within the platforms cost credits. You can see here, I have credits over here. I have been blowing through them just to demo some of this stuff. And every time I use this AI agent, it's going to cost me credits. Now, I pay for Lindy. So I get 5,000 credits a month. That's what I'm getting right now. But if you are on the free option, you're going to run out of credits building an AI agent. So just plan for that, especially if you use this chat builder over here. It is going to cost you credits to use it. So what do you do? Well, the benefit of using the chat builder here is that you have the context of your flow. So you can use, it will refer to it and know what the problems are. But you can do other things to save credits. And also, if you don't have this chat builder, you're going to need to use other options to troubleshoot. So one of the best things you can do is to go over, is to take this response and translate it. If you do not understand what this means, you can use AI to translate this. So I am building an AI agent. Help me translate this feedback I got. All right, so I'm just telling AI what an AI tool what the problem is. I am doing this outside of the AI tool itself, so it doesn't cost me credits. This is a free Gemini plan, and of course, it's going to make me vote on a response. I hate when that happens. It's like, come on, you're the model here. Okay, let's go with this one. So it's telling me, it sounds like you have a solid skeleton for your agent. Okay, great, because I use a template, but I'm missing some information. Okay. And it's going to break down what the problem is. So it says the problem is auth ID null. You need to go into the node and find the authentication and credentials section. So it's telling me what I need to do. It's also saying my knowledge base isn't set up. That's one of my problems. And then I have a hallucination risk. So apparently in one of the prompts, which I did not see, I say to use the company info to reply, but the AI is looking for that information and it's not going to find it. And so I need to fix that too. And then it summarizes it. So now I have a translation of what is wrong with my AI agent. So that's helpful. But the reality is that if I don't have this, then I'm not going to be able to know all of that. So what you can do, another option is one, you can go to the documentation and you can take the documentation and give it to Gemini. We're going to start a new one and say, I am stuck building my AI agent that responds to emails with a draft. Here is the documentation. Help me get unstuck. I am seeing an error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to screenshot my error and the workflow, all of it. And I'm going to give it to Gemini with the documentation. So 1 second here, I'm going to upload it here under upload files. Okay, I've uploaded the screenshot. I've given it the documentation. And now I'm going to give it to Gemini. And what Gemini is going to do is it's going to troubleshoot the problem. I've given it the context. I've given it the documentation, and then it has its general knowledge about building AI agents, no code that it's going to work through. So it's going to analyze that and break it down for me. The most common issue, to get your email unstuck, the most common issue when following the email responding 101 guide involves save as draft setting. Okay. So it's giving me a breakdown of what the error is and how to fix it step by step. And here's the thing. Even if you go back and you're like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. You could say, break this down step by step. I'm not an engineer. I'm new to this. Explain it like a beginner. Isn't that that's the beauty of AI? You can get feedback and say, I'm at this level. Break it down for me. And that's exactly what it's going to do. Now, I'm not going to go troubleshoot all this. My goal is to give you the tools to troubleshoot it. And your tools are documentation and another AI platform. Now, could you ask a person? Absolutely. And you probably should. That always helps. But if you don't have a person to ask, this is your best option because it's going to break it down in easy to read language, step by step for you. And that is what the iteration process looks like. It's you being able to break down each of these, go through and fill out the details. And then when you get stuck, go to the documentation, look through the documentation. Okay. There's this documentation is actually quite thorough. You can see we've got docs on getting started, triggers, so what steps starts your AI agent. Then we have actions, so the different types of actions your agent can take and so on. So there's a lot to learn on here. And these tools can get complex fast, okay? You can do a lot with these tools, but you should start small because every single one of these is a little tiny problem to be solved. Okay. And then once you get this done, you can add more to it. Now, I'm going to delete this because I learned that this is just an overview of the AI agent. It's not actually the agent itself. That's a quirk to Lindy. Okay. So this is your AI agent. You also see over here, we have the testing option. I'm not going to do that right now because it will show my email. And but you can run the test in here. It will send it will pull an email that you are connected to because you connect your email here. It will pull an email from there. It will run the agent, and then you will see a draft email show up in your actual inbox. So nothing is sent. But if you are nervous about doing this within your email, create a fake email inbox. It's great. We call this sandbox. You can ask your company to create a fake email for you so you can practice without having to train on any company data and really just get the hang of it. Or if you're doing this on your own, just set up a fake Gmail account for all of this testing. I do this all the time. This is actually a fake email I'm using. And then over here, when you have this flowing the right way, you don't see any errors, you run a test and you like the way that the email sounds, then you will publish the changes and this will just run automatically in the background. Okay. But there's a lot of work to get there. Like I said, you have to fill in all of these pieces because even on the response, you have to define even in here how the agent should respond. Okay. And it pre-wrote a prompt for you, which is what I love about this. But you should define what that response looks like and all the other additional stuff in here. So that is how you build an AI agent on a no-code platform. It is step by step. It is troubleshooting, and it is getting into the experimental mindset so you can see what's possible with these AI agents. So start small, know your work, and have fun. Okay, let's talk about building micro apps using Claude. This is probably one of my favorite things to do with AI. When I say micro apps, I mean small little tools that make your job or other people's job easier. So this is an example of a micro app that I have built. And this term app is doing a lot of heavy lifting, but it's barely an app. Okay. Basically, this is a tool designed to help people get started with AI. Oftentimes people don't know what to do when they're using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. And so this just helps you figure it out based on your job. So super easy here. You're just going to select your role. So let's do project manager. Hit continue. And then I'm going to answer this question. What eats up most your time? Well, let's be real. Creating reports or updates. You can only select one. You can even write in the thing that you want if you want. And then it's going to build your kit. So what it's building is 3 different use cases for you to try with AI based on your job and the thing that takes up the most time. And not only is it going to give you the use cases, it's going to give you the prompts as well. So you can just get started with AI, right? Reducing that cognitive load. And you can see it talks about what your biggest win is going to be. It's going to give you 3 AI habits to build, brain dump to report, email to update. And here's that prompt right there. You just copy that prompt and it's ready to use in your AI tool of choice. And this just makes people's lives easier when they're getting started with AI. I'll link to this in the resources so you can obviously play around with it. But this is what we're talking about when we're talking about micro apps, these tiny, small tools that you can build to make your work life easier. So think of them as they are single task tools. They're not supposed to be an entire system. So like big app would be something like an HR management system. Micro app is like a tiny feature in that system, like an acronym demystifier, right? Imagine you have a tool where you put in an acronym and then it explains what it actually is. It would be great in some of these companies because when you're first starting work, you have no idea what those acronyms are. And sometimes even after you've been there for years, you don't know. That's an example of a micro app. Very small, solves a very specific problem, and you can even make it a little fun. Zero installation. This lives inside of Claude. You don't have to publish it anywhere. You publish directly on Claude. Everybody can access it. Similar to ChatGPT's Custom GPT or Google's Google Gems. They are disposable. So think of them as like, yeah, just create it. We'll use it for some time and then can forget about it. But if you want to, keep it around for a while, you don't have to reprogram it when things change. You just tell Claude with natural language, hey, things change it to this. And it does. And I love that, right? So they are also interactive. So unlike PDFs, you can, as you saw, interact with it, type things in, click buttons, have things appear on screen. Honestly, they're just super fun to experiment with. So I like to think of this as you are the product manager when it comes to the micro app. You define the job to be done and what it should look like. Then Claude is the engineer. It builds the tool, right? And we're using just language and prompts to get there. And when I say prompts, I mean prompts and iteration because you don't get the tool right off the bat the way you want it. And if you think about what we just saw, the job to be done here was help someone who isn't sure how to use AI figure out exactly what to try first based on their job and give them the prompt they need to start. So that was the job that this app is supposed to do. And I'd say, yeah, it did it. Okay, next up, let's talk about how to figure out what kind of tool you should build for your team. Okay, now that you know that you can build these micro apps, let's talk about figuring out what micro apps you should build for your team. Now, maybe you're building them for yourself, but here I'm going to focus on the team. Some of you might already have like a million ideas and you're like, well, I'm ready to get started. But this is for someone who maybe isn't quite sure. You really want to do something for your team. So this is going to sound familiar at this point, but I want you to think about the work being done. What's the work being done? What are the pain points? Where are people struggling? Where do they have a hard time? And where are the tasks that people do over and over that follow the same steps? So look for a task where people collect the same information, or they do the same thinking, or they produce the same type of output, right? Like standardizing outputs. Classic AI use case, easy to build a tool to standardize everybody's outputs, right? So that's just one example of many. I have some examples over here on the chart or on the table, and there's some categories here. And the categories are really designed to get you thinking, all right, in our teamwork, do we do anything that involves idea generation? Do we do anything that involves decision making, right? Can I make a tool that helps decision making, like a vendor comparison tool, where we list the pros and cons, right? Listen, there are endless ideas out there, and that's the thing about ideas, right? You have so many options. And so sometimes that can be paralyzing. So that's what this table is for. But I have way more options for you because I want you to really get in here and experiment. I think this is one of the easiest things to build with AI or these micro apps. So a couple of options for you. I built a prompt. You can use this prompt. It's going to put it into any AI tool you want. It doesn't have to be Claude. And it's going to brainstorm AI tools for you. So you can go back and forth. There's a lot to fill in, but you're gonna get to some ideas for a tool. So if you want to go that route, use those. You use that prompt. You also have, I'll link to this in the resources. This is artifacts. This is the inspiration of artifacts. Similar to what we saw with custom GPTs and gems, they have templates here where you can, look through what you can build, get ideas. You can, I think you can even use them as templates, right? You can customize them. You see that button right there. So it's going to pull up the artifact and it's going to show you what you can build. It's going to give you a starting prompt and everything. So a lot of options there. And lastly, if you're like, hey, I still don't have ideas, I made you a micro tool. This is a micro tool made by Claude that helps you figure out what tool you should build on your team. So you'll fill out these 4 questions. You'll talk about what your team does, what you're trying to get better at, what tools your team uses, and what your team's experience with AI is so far. Then you'll click on it and it will give you several um, options of what you can build. Plus, it's going to give you that starter prompt, which is magic. It's just going to get you started. So that'll be in the resource as well. And then you can figure out what kind of tool to build and get started experimenting with these micro apps. All right, it's time to build. Let's build a helpful little tool for onboarding and new employees. I am going to build an acronym demystifier. This is just a simple little tool where someone can type in the acronym that they have seen and get a definition of what that acronym is and what it's for. Super simple, helps new hires or maybe anyone who's been at the company for a long time. And the way we're going to do it is I'm going to take my list of acronyms right here. We have a ton of acronyms, about 100 of them. It's got a description. It says what it stands for and why we use it. So I'm going to take that and I am going to upload it to Claude. And then we're going to make a little prompt that explains what I want to do. Okay, I've uploaded my list of acronyms and now I'm going to make a prompt and it's not going to be super fancy right off the top of the bat. You can put in, super detailed prompts. I could have ChatGPT write this prompt for me or Claude write this prompt for me, but I'm going to just keep it brief in the beginning so we can walk through what this process looks like. So create a simple acronym decoder tool for my team. It should accept the user. I'm going to talk about the user. The user should be able to type in the acronym. Why is that so hard to write? Acronym and get a description, a definition of what it is and why it's used. The tool should be playful yet minimal. So I'm describing what the functionality. The user should be able to type in the acronym and get a definition of what it is and why it's used, because that's what I have in my data. And the tool should be playful yet minimal. So yeah, I think that's good. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to give it to Claude, and Claude is going to work on it. And we'll come back in just a minute and see what it's built. Okay, we have a acronym decoder here. So this took about maybe 3 minutes, 2 minutes, not long at all. And so you can see it has created the file. All 90 plus acronyms are in there. It describes what it does. And okay, I can test it out right here. So I'm going to go G to G. What is that? And look, they added these buttons. I didn't say to do that, but I'm going to type one in and say decode. Good to go. Green to gold, the final approval stage before a feature goes public. Okay, I see we've got a little button here, decode another. Okay, this looks good. I love this. Let's see. Why? Is that in there? Not in the decoder yet. Ask your manager, add it to the wiki. Okay, super interesting. So I didn't decide all of these features. These were designed on its own. So I like this. Now, let's say we want to fix some things. Like this is real hard to see under there. So I'm going to say the decode another option is too hard to see. Make it a button. Make it a button. And so let's see what Claude does. Once again, I'm going to pause and we'll come back when it is updated. Okay, we're back. That took maybe a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and, okay, there we go. We have this new button there. Much easier to see when I figured this out. So yeah, I've just taken that static PDF or that static chart and turned it into an interactive tool. And you can see like how easy it is to update. I recommend when you're doing this, only fix one thing at a time because sometimes it can get overwhelmed by all the things. So if you see multiple things you want to change, break them down, okay? It makes it easier for the tool to for Claude to know what to fix. Look, if you're interested in the code, you can go in, you can look at the code here. You can do all kinds of things. I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, add a background of plants, make it soothing. So use green tones, but make sure I can still see the copy and text box. Okay. Again, I make mistakes all the time when I type. I'm not going to bother to fix them because Claude understands. That's the beauty of this. Even though I'm teaching you right now, I'm not fixing the mistakes. All right. So you can see it's working over here. It's replacing the background color. And so it's updating you. And this will probably take like a minute, but we'll pause here and come back when it's fixed. Okay, we've got a little bit of a different vibe going on here. I like it. I kind of expected something different, but for the sake of this, we're not gonna change it too much. The last thing I'm gonna do, change the name to Mr. Jargon Helper. Okay, no, let's say Madame Jargon Helper. There we are. Yeah, because why not? It's silly. All right, we're gonna pause this and come back when it's updated. Beautiful. I love it. Let's ship it. Okay, here's the deal. This has taken less than 10 minutes to do and in the real world when I wasn't editing it. So great. Now you have your final product here. And this is what it looks like to build these tools, right? You could give a prompt that's everything at once. And it's like, this is what I want, this is what I want, and detail it all out. You absolutely could do that. But chances are you're still going to have to fix some things. And so sometimes I like to just start small if I'm not sure what I want my end goal to be, right? What it should look like. So I will start with functionality. I want it to do this, and I want you to start off with minimal. And then I will update little pieces until I get what I want, right? And that's where we have arrived at where I want. And usually I end with the aesthetics, right? The look and feel. I want the functionality first and then look and feel. So once you have done this, you simply go over to Publish Artifact and you publish and copy link. And now it's on the web. And you can unpublish it anytime. You can embed it into your website if you'd like, online somewhere, and so on. So really, and this is what makes these tools so much fun, is that you are able to just easily create a small little tool, ship it, and you don't have to have any code to do it. So have fun experimenting with this. Make sure you remember that this is a prompting and iteration game, right? You are prompting, you're iterating, you're telling it what you want. That is the key skill here. You are constantly getting it to update. If it does something wrong, tell it it's wrong. If something doesn't look right on the screen, take a screenshot of it, give it to Claude and say, fix this. This isn't right. Here's why. Here's what I want. That is how you work with these. And I hope you have fun making little tools for yourself and for your team. All right, let's talk about vibe coding. This is Lovable. It's one of many vibe coding tools out there that you can use to create websites, apps, and other digital products without any coding experience. And that's what makes these platforms so magical. You describe, it should look familiar. You describe what you want here, and then it builds it. You are looking at Lovable here. They've got all kinds of templates and ideas on what you could build, portfolios, websites, landing pages, blogs. The list goes on. You can definitely explore some of those templates here. But vibe coding is the act of describing what you want in plain language and then AI building the app for you. So no coding required. They are very powerful tools, and they've obviously taken off in this AI age. So they've really allowed people with no technical background to start building products. And you start to see a lot of creativity and interesting tools being built from this capability. So the process really looks like this. Very simple, is going to sound repetitive at this point. You describe the goal, AI generates the code, it shows you what it's built, you observe, you provide feedback, and you refine. If the output isn't right, and it's not always right, you provide new instructions like add a text box so people can submit their preference, and so on. And then you repeat. You are describing, generating, testing, and refining until the code is complete. When is it complete? Well, when you have defined what the output looks like, what the ideal state looks like, when it looks like that, that's when it's complete. And when it's usable, because if you're building tools for somebody else and they can't use it, then it's not complete yet. So it takes time to get to a finished output, right? You can build a lot of cool things with vibe coding. And we'll walk through kind of some of those options. But there will be a couple concepts you might hear and see in the documentation. Like always, I want you to look at the documentation because that's going to walk you through how to do a lot of things. Oftentimes we refer to the front end. This is what people see and interact with on a website or a digital product and app. Vibe coding tends to build this really well. The back end is the stuff you don't see. This is where data often lives, so databases and logic. You'll likely need help building anything that requires a backend. This course does not teach this, by the way. It's very much scoped to those simple tools. But we do sometimes you may find someone referring to the backend. They're referring to the stuff that happens behind the scenes that essentially makes these programs run. Database, you'll hear this because it eventually, if you're making a certain tool and you need to store information, you're going to need a database. And these tools do offer the option to add a database to your tools. Now, we're not covering that in this course, but just know that a database is where your information is stored. It's like having a spreadsheet that the tool can read from. And deploying just means putting it into production, making the tool accessible to others via usually often a link, or you can publish it on a website as well. It's going to depend on your tool. But these are the tools that the terms that you should know when you're reading documentation, watching videos on vibe coding. I will say vibe coding is super fun, but we're just going to do simple tools in this unit here. And there is a lot online on YouTube and stuff where to really direct your learning in this space. So once you get started, take advantage of those other resources out there so you can learn how to go further with this, because there's a lot of things you can do, and I am only just scratching the surface on this video. Let's talk about deciding what to build with vibe coding tools. So vibe coding tools are incredibly powerful. You can get complex very easily. And if you have a little bit of coding knowledge, you can do even more. This class assumes there's no code here. So I want to really scope what's possible with these tools and where the lines are. So there's really two types of tools that you can build with vibe coding tools. You can build prototypes, which are concepts, interactive concepts that you use to further a discussion, to demonstrate an idea, right? Because Because when you put something in front of someone that they can play with, interact with, that gets a very different response than just describing something that you want to build. So a prototype is essentially where you are trying to test an idea to see if it's worth building, to see if it's worth investing engineering, time, money into building something. You use a prototype, okay, to communicate your idea. And this is very common on design teams and product teams. And you can make interactive prototypes with AI. We saw that with Claude Artifacts, but certainly with vibe coding, you can do even more. And so the goal when you're prototyping is to make it close enough, right? You're not trying to get pixel perfect. You're trying to get the idea across, right? You're communicating an idea. And in order to do that, to build a prototype, you need a clear description of the problem and the willingness to throw away the prototype if it doesn't work. The prototypes are not your final output. They're just getting the conversation started. And vibe coding is amazing for that. You can spin up something in less than 5 minutes and be like, hey, here's my idea, okay? It's great for communication and persuasion. So an example of that might be you are maybe telling your manager, you want something where you can collect all the feedback after a session, and you want a real-time response of what that could look like, right? And your goal is to start the conversation with your manager about how this feedback tool would really benefit your team, right? So instead of describing this tool, you just show your manager, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had this tool and how much time it should save us? That is the example of how you use a prototype. Okay. And in a bit here, we'll talk about how to, prompt those simple tools. Then we have the actual tools. You are actually building tools that other people will use. This is a very different type of build. With this build, you're actually creating something people are going to use, and they're going to use it repeatedly, and they need it to not break. Okay. So the bar here is building something that's reliable, clear, and usable by someone who had no process building it. So they weren't involved in the build. They're your end user. This is going to require a lot more work. This is going to require thinking about who's using it, how they access it, and what ownership looks like afterwards, right after you make it, okay? That's on top of all the other stuff you have to do, the work that we'll talk about in a bit, the stuff you do before you build. This should be a theme by now. So why do I tell you this? Well, because you can do so much with vibe coding, and sometimes you start with in the prototype space, and then you start moving into build team tools, but they're different, okay? And for example, if I wanted to build a team tool that was for, let's say, workshop polling and synthesis, the example here. I'm a facilitator, I run sessions, I want people to put their responses in, and then we can see in real time a tool that aggregates all the themes across the responses I'm getting, right? So this replaces the sticky note and manual idea generation. Now, do I love that? Absolutely. I still use that in my live workshops. But you could see this being really beneficial in like a remote setting, right? Okay, that's a team tool. You need something that's polished, okay? You're going to have to work a lot harder on a tool like that than you would a prototype. Why do I tell you this? We have to set expectations for how long it's going to take to build these things, okay? When we say vibe coding, it makes it sound like we can just prompt and get it, the ideal output. No, you have to work with these prompts, okay? And honestly, you have to scope what you build by your experience level. So I have a couple of examples here. I want you to pick tools that you can build yourself right now from start to finish. When you get started with vibe coding, you want to pick something small. Sound familiar? These are tools, to get tools that like a person puts in information, they get back something. Tools where the system does not need to remember anything. So when you vibe code, you can add features where like databases where it can store information. Okay. We're not building those in this course. That is next level. But I want you to think about, like, is this something people can use and the tool doesn't need to remember anything by the next session? Build prototypes that test an idea. Great use of vibe coding, like I said, or just simple tools where the interface is the whole point, right? Instead of writing things down, we're doing something quickly online. We don't need to build a website similar to the artifacts, okay? But the idea is to get you to build these tools so that way you can then level up to the next thing when you're building your skills. Because there are other tools that you start the tool itself, but then you need help to finish. You start bringing in either an engineer or someone more with more experience level or programming to help you build out the rest of the tool. So these are tools that need to store information across multiple users. They might have to connect to your existing software, CHRs, LMSs, tools that need login and permissions. Can you build it? Absolutely. Is it secure? No. So unless you're teaching yourself this, bring in someone else to help with that. And then anything that needs to work reliably at scale for the whole org. Okay. Don't build a vibe coded app for your whole org by yourself without getting some technical input here. You could, but I would advise against it just because there are things that you don't know that are certainly can help you to know, and the technical experts can help you with that. Things you should avoid for vibe coding. Tools that handle any sensitive employee or customer data. Do not use that. Don't vibe code that. Don't vibe code client-facing tools that represent your brand. There are a host of security and legal issues that you need to navigate. This should be professionally built. Use vibe coding to create a prototype to communicate your idea, and then engineering can decide whether they take it on. Anything that plugs into financial, legal, or compliance systems and production grade tools that rely that real users outside your team will depend on daily, right? There are some tools you need a very well built tool to use. So look, vibe coding is cool. You can do a lot. You're going to do a lot with these tools, but there are limits, okay? And knowing those limits helps. So what are we doing just so we know in this class? I'm covering the basics in this class. That is what Lovable is. That's my chosen choice. That's going to be my choice for a vibe coding tool. You can use others. There are definitely tons out there. What it can build, prompting, making changes, what to do when something looks wrong. That is what we're covering here. The next step is to learn about databases, data sources, authentication, and so on. You can learn about that from tons of YouTube videos. You can ask a technical person, an engineer. They will walk you through this if they're kind. And then you can also look at the documentation as well, right? The goal is to get you started with the basics. We start small, you get comfortable prompting, iterating the whole process, and then you start to build the more advanced tools with databases. But the reality is you can do this step by step. All right, let's talk about the work you'll need to do before you vibe code. Now, of course, you can drop right into your tool and just start asking it to build things. And that's a fun way to learn. Do that. But then come back when it's time to actually build a tool for somebody. You're going to need to run through this process. And by now, this should sound very familiar. The reality is with vibe coding tools, they're going to build whatever you describe. Okay. And if you are too vague on them, the tool will be vague, which means you'll get a weird output that doesn't match what you want. That's not a hallucination. That's a miscommunication. So you need to take the time to define what you want to build before you tell the tool. How do you tell the tool? Well, you do it in a prompt like everything else. But again, we don't want to use all of our credits inside these tools describing all the things that we want. We want to do that outside of the tool. Okay. So we saw that in the agent example, same thing here. So I want you to think about before you build one, I want you to reflect what are you solving for? Okay. So think about the job to be done. This is what's the problem you're solving with AI. If you're building a tool, you should be solving a problem. Who's the user? What do they need, right? What are they doing with it? The workflow, where does it fit in the sequence of work? So giving these type of details can help the AI tool, the vibe coding tool, know how this is being used. The inputs, does the user type, select, paste things in? The outputs, what do they see or get back when they're done? Get in the habit of thinking through this, okay? So that way you're not spending time in the vibe coding tool like Lovable, building it using all of those credits. Because again, it's expensive. What you're going to want to do is build a project brief. This will function like your prompt. And this is a plain language description of the tool you want to build. Use it for your prompt so you will get close to what you actually want without wasting credits. Oftentimes we have briefs that are too vague, too technical, and too feature heavy. You're not supposed to start with a bunch of features, right? Start small. You've heard me say that enough times now. I also want you to define what done looks like. Again, you should know what the final output should look like. You don't have to have all the details, but have an idea. What should it look like? What should users be able to do? What does good look like? What will you accept as done? Asking what will you accept as done is different than what should it look like. Okay, because there's oftentimes a gap between what we expect in our head and what we'll settle with because we're just tired of doing it. Okay, be honest. Okay, and don't forget documentation is going to help you with this process. The last thing that I will remind you of is that you need to think holistically when it comes to building tools for others. You need to think of things like, will someone who has never seen this figure it out? Reliability, what happens when the tool breaks or gives an unexpected output? What does the user do? Can they start over? Okay. This is you building the tool. This is you using the tool. Who needs to use it and how will they get to it? Who owns it when something changes? So if you build this AI tool for someone, who's going to own it afterwards? Is it you? Okay. What information is going in the tool and is that okay? This is a big one. Are you asking people to share personally sensitive information? If so, not a tool to build. Realistic expectations. Vibe coder tools produce web apps, not enterprise software. Okay. Know the limits. We talked about that in the prior videos. But this is important because the lines get very blurred here, right? You're not building professional grade software just yet. Well, I would argue you're not. The goal here is to build simple tools for internal use. Okay. So this is how we approach the building process. And this does take time. And I would say it's a discussion. Include other people in the discussion because you will find that working by yourself with these tools sometimes gets frustrating. Having another opinion, someone with some experience in this can also help as well. But again, go in, you can experiment all you want, play around, but when it comes time to actually building something that people are going to use, you want to follow this process. Now, one thing I will tell you is that in the documentation or in our resources, I gave you a little prompt over here. And this prompt is something that can help you write out that project brief. Okay, so you can see you've got those questions in there, and it's just going to help you reflect on that. And then it's going to summarize your project brief so you can use it as a prompt in Lovable. And it's going to keep it short to optimize credits because oftentimes ChatGPT or Gemini will put out a really long document, and you don't want to put that in Lovable. You want to optimize where every word counts so you don't use credits. Name of the game, don't spend all the credits. Okay, so use that prompt to help you get to a project brief. And then we'll talk about things you can do to improve your prompts on Lovable. All right, let's talk about how to prompt when you're vibe coding. And specifically, I'm going to talk about in the context of Lovable, but you can do it with any tool. So what you're looking at, it's a little messy right here, but you are looking at prompt tips on the left, and then on the right is actually Lovable. If I extend this further, this is the Lovable interface. Up here is where I put my first prompt when I started this project. This is called the feedback translator. So the idea here is you can put some feedback in here. You need to work harder, please. And it's going to translate what it's saying. So in this case, it's a very straightforward translation, what to do about it, how to respond to it, and the tone of it. So if you're someone who's like, I don't know what to do with this feedback I get, this translates for you. This is a little tool you could use on your team, you could use for yourself. It's just a fun project to see how vibe coding can work. And this was the first version I made. So in my prompt, you see I tell it what we're making, what it's called. I describe the action, okay? User pays in feedback they received. The feedback may be, all these things. The tool responds with what the feedback is saying, what to do about it, and the tone, okay? And then I go on to describe the design, right? This should say text box, but I got the message. So it says clean and modern with white, blah, 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 blah. It goes on, okay? And of course, it goes on to make this thing and so on. So that is the prompt. That is a pretty standard prompt. And by the way, I did generate that with GPT, ChatGPT. So some things to consider when you are prompting. One, set the look and feel early. So you are telling the vibe coding tool what you want in the first message. Keep it clean and minimal, bold and colorful, whatever you want, describe it in there. It helps to get that in the first part, just to get a sense of how the design should look. You're not going for exacts, but you're going for option, a feel. Build one piece at a time. You don't have to build a whole tool in one message. In fact, if you look at the documentation for Lovable, on prompting, it will tell you to break it up into stages. And if you're not sure how to do that, get your project brief and then ask ChatGPT how to break it up into smaller prompts for Lovable. Okay, you can even give Lovable's documentation to ChatGPT or Gemini and say, help me write prompts that break up my workflow. Okay, totally doable. Why do I say use AI? Because it's easier to do that. You all are going to have different projects. So that's going to be your most reliable way. I want you to be specific. So instead of add a button, say add a blue button that says submit feedback. So being more specific is going to give you better results. Add references. So this is actually a good one. Instead of describing your design, you can do two things. One, you can add a design reference. So I added one here, right? I saw a website. I was like, oh, this would be cool if it looked like that. Okay. Say you see a website you like I like these colors and I like this font. I could take a screenshot of it and then upload it here where it says attach. Okay. And then say, design the website with this font and color. Like that is also how you can add design elements to your tool. You could also give that picture to ChatGPT and say, describe this design, and then copy that and put that in your prompt. Multiple ways to prompt here. But giving it context for what you want it to look like, and how you want it to, what the interaction should be like is key in getting to a good tool. Okay. And this takes practice. It's not often right away that you get this, right? But this is what you are aiming for. And then also, I find it fun to use your voice sometimes. I see this a lot with a lot of vibe coders. There is an option here for voice, enable voice note. Sometimes it's easier to just talk out what you want. Okay. do that. That may save you some time. I'd also recommend you might want to talk this out to ChatGPT or your AI tool first to get all of what you need out, have ChatGPT structure it, and then add it to the prompt. Again, why? Because we're saving credits. Okay. Up to you how you do this. You're going to get the workflow over time. Okay. I'm giving you tips and tricks as you go, but you will get this over time. But start with the details up here and then add more as you go. You don't have to do it. This is not one shot. You are going to go back and forth with it. This is part of the iteration process. Okay, let's build on that last concept from the last video about iteration. So by this point, this should sound familiar, but I really want to point out that in vibe coding, there is rarely a one and done situation. You're not going to get everything in one prompt, nor should you try, right? Lovable is going to give you something on the first build, but it's not going to be right. Okay, just expect that. Think of your first output as a starting point for a conversation. You're going to give instructions to the model to build the thing that you want it to build. And if you look at on the right here, I have the four-stage design process. This is what iteration looks like. You build, you test it. Does it work? You poke around, you review, you give people, if you can, give people a link to it to try it out. And they give you feedback, you iterate, and you build some more. That is what this process like. It is a continuous loop, okay? Things that you often will give feedback on. The layout, is it in the right order, right? Does everything make sense? The labels, does every button and field say what it should, what it does, right? This is where you get into more of the details later. Output, is what's coming back actually useful or just plausible sounding, right? Is this useful to the person that's going to use it? And flow. Can someone who has never seen this figure out what to do without being told? Key. Because sometimes we build things that are really cool, but only we can figure out how to use them. If you have to explain to a user how to use this tool, like you actually sit down and show them, then it's not ready. Okay. So I tell you this for the simple reason that it is easy to get frustrated using these tools. I like to tell people when I'm building AI tools, sometimes it feels like I'm going to throw my laptop out the window. But stick with it, learn how to troubleshoot, right? When things go wrong, and get feedback on it, right? It is fun to build, but this is part of the process when you are building. Once you move over from just consuming to just actually building, it is normal for things not to be right and to have to fix them and to have to test, revise, try again, test, revise, try again. So if you find yourself in that loop, you are in the right place. Okay, this is a team tool that I built using Lovable. It is an AI project risk checker. So the idea is that you put in your AI projects, you describe them, and it gives you a risk level. So that way anyone in your company can decide whether or not this is a risky AI project and it can go forward. So it's a governance tool. So I'll show you how it works and then we'll break down how I actually made it. So first off, this is a resume ranker. I'm going to choose this as my project that I'm building with AI. What will it do? It will rank all the resumes for a given job. Who does it affect? Well, both customers. Note there that it says customers. It could also affect job seekers, but okay. What data does it use? Personal details like name, phone number, email address, social profiles, and names of job companies. Who reviews the output? Nobody. I just wanted to rank it. What happens if it gets it wrong? Someone doesn't get a job. Okay, that's the honest truth with resume rankers. Let's check. Okay, and it tells me that is a high risk AI use case. So the risk summary tells me why it's high risk. About it, key considerations: the data involves to be highly sensitive. This affects both employees and customers. There appears to be no human review of AI outputs. And then it recommends a next step. Escalate to leadership. This project needs executive review and possible legal or ethics consultation before proceeding. Okay, so this is the first version of an AI project risk checker tool that I built. Now, obviously there are some quirks with this, and maybe we could fix things up, but let me walk you through how I built this on Lovable. Now, I have already built it because it takes time to build these. So I want to just walk you through what I've done so you can kind of see where we got to. So this is my original prompt. And you can see it's pretty detailed here. If we zoom in, I tell it to build a tool, what it's called. I say, who is it designed for and how it's going to be used. I talk about the form I want them to fill out. So what will, all the fields that I want. Now, here's the thing. You could say, you could just give it to AI and say, I want it to be an AI risk checker, and it will build something, but that doesn't mean it's going to build what you want. So I had an idea of what I wanted. This is a use case where I answer this question all the time, and so I want to make a tool that is useful for other people to self-assess, right, for their organization. And you could build this tool as well. The tool assesses, say what the tool does. It assesses the response against these risk criteria: data sensitivity, impact on people, human oversight, reversibility, and transparency, right? These are all governance issues. And don't worry if you don't know what that means. That's just saying that these are the things we need to consider when we are building AI products. So I want the result. And what is your output? Well, the output should be a risk summary, which is a plain language overview, a risk score, and a recommended next step. So it's, what do I do if it tells me it's high risk? Should I just not build it? Well, it tells you the next step. So then I say the design, okay? And I could have done way more here. Honestly, I picked navy because it seems sensible, but it isn't my first choice. I would use brighter colors, but that's neither here nor there. So here's what happens. The model went and thought about it, and then it created it. Okay. And that was the first version that you saw. Now, there is a difference there. I have no way to restart this to try other projects. And I just was kind of like, well, I just feel like we could do more with this. So what did I do? I said, why don't you add a team dashboard so someone can see all the submitted projects in one view, sortable by risk score, date, and department. So that's what you're actually seeing over here. This now, the model went and built it. Okay. And it shows you exactly what it did. You have the option to preview. We're previewing it now. And then it tells you what it is added. Okay. So now I can test that. And that's what I love about this tool is I can actually test it out. So now let's see my team dashboard. I haven't added a project yet, so I'm going to go run my first assessment and look, I can go back to the checker. So let's do that. We're going to give a new one. Let's do the resume ranker again. Which department is using this? Oh, and we added a department there. I forgot that part. I added that. What will I do? Rank resumes by job description requirements. Who does it affect? Both people. What data does it use? What did we say before? Names, phone numbers, email addresses, sometimes addresses, as social profiles, company names. Who reviews it? Nobody. That's not a great use case, is it? What happens if the agent gets it wrong? Someone doesn't get hired. Okay, so again, we've seen this. Check my project. High risk. Okay. That's no good. So now let's go to the team dashboard and you can see it's over here. And now we have an example of where this might be useful for a team. You can see what other people are considering. So let's try that again. Project name. We're going to go with job description writer. You can see I already had that in there. I've been testing job description writer. Which department owns it? Honestly, it could be all of them. What will the AI do? Write job descriptions based on inputs. Mostly, actually, it'll affect, see, this button needs to change because this grouping doesn't work here. So let's do both. We're going to assume it's customers, but we mean people outside. What data does it use? Let's see, existing job descriptions. Who reviews it? Hiring manager and the recruiter. What happens if it gets it wrong? Well, it doesn't accurately reflect the real job and we get mismatched applicants. Okay, so check my project. Risk score is low risk. How nice. Okay, so lower risk. Remember how many times I've said build a tool that's low risk? Yeah, you could use a checker for this. And recommended next step, go ahead. This project looks ready to proceed. Okay, let's check my dashboard. Was that in there? Yeah, there we are. So you could start to see where this gets really interesting, right? I could use this to track ideas on my team. If I were a manager, department lead, whatever it is, this is a very handy team tool. Repeatable task. Everybody is trying to come up with AI ideas. Okay. Low, we're repeatable task. And also, is this something that includes that we can put in a lot of information and get a result? Yes. Okay. Are multiple people using this? Yes. Great. This is a good tool. Also, this is low risk. This isn't harming anybody. So I could be really meta and put this tool into this tool, but let's not do that. Here's the deal. Now, I would go back and I would say, we would say things like, okay, change the, let's go back to the drop down, the, not department, change the group under who does it affect to employees, to offer employees, um, people outside the company, um, and people outside the company, and that we'll just keep it like that, and people outside the external to the company. Okay, so we're going to change one thing at a time because changing one thing at a time helps you better track what's happening. Okay, and it helps you troubleshoot when things go wrong. So you can, in these tools, you can often go back to a previous version. I think view history here. You have the option to go back to a previous version and reset from there. So if you ask it to change 10 things at once, that's harder to troubleshoot and go back to. So we're going to wait here and see, what does it do? Does it give me another option? Let's. Okay, it has edited it. So that was a small one. And of course, it's going to tell you. And if we look over here, people external to the company. Excellent. Okay. So that's great, or both. Okay. So I'm liking what I'm seeing. Let's say I want to improve the look and feel of this. Okay. Because this is fine. This is fine. Well, let's say I have some design sensibilities and I want something more. Let's go back to that example earlier. What if I like this color, this font, this style? Let's give that to Lovable and see it upgraded. Okay. So I'm going to update that screenshot. Just a second here. Okay, you can see it down here. I've added my reference point and I'm going to be specific. Change the color and font to this style. Add buttons to start the tool. A start button to, that says check your project, or analyze my risk, and another button that links to the dashboard and says see other projects. Okay. Now, I've not actually tested this, so we're doing it live, folks. Let's see what happens. Change the color and font to this style. I've attached and change the color. Let's do layout too. And layout. Let's do apply. We can change, but let's see what happens here. Will I run out of credits? The big question. I don't pay for Lovable. I'm on the free version here. So we'll pause and we'll see what we get. And we're back. Look at that. Looks pretty good. That is a big difference from where we started over here, right? Okay. Do I need this? No. But am I building something for other people to use and maybe I wanted to make it more engaging? Absolutely. This is going to do it already. So yeah, you can see I now have 4.2 credits remaining. I don't know what that means. I don't know how much that is, but I know that I don't have much left. So let's test it out. And it tells me over here it is finished thinking and that it redid everything. So let's go test it to make sure it works. So analyze my risk. Okay, so we have those same project details. We have that updated button, check my project. Looks nice, see other projects. Okay, so we have my resume ranker. Doesn't look like it kept my last example on there, but that's okay. So let's analyze my risk, test it again. This time, what's my project name? I'm going to chatbot. Let's say onboarding chatbot. Okay, department, which we're going to do sales owns it. What will the AI do? Guide new hires through the onboarding process, including giving info about upcoming meetings, key dates, people, and tools. Who does it affect? Employees. What data does it use? Onboarding documentation. And that's pretty much it. Who reviews the output before it goes anywhere? Well, nobody does. Nobody. It's a chatbot. What happens if I get wrong? The new hire is confused. And this is great exercise, by the way, in thinking about how you need to think through your own AI tools that you're building. Think about all these pieces. It's not just how do I build it? It's what's it going to do? Who does it affect? What data does it use, right? That's why this tool is really handy. Okay, we have a medium risk. Okay, onboarding chatbot has some areas that need attention. There appears to be no human review of AI outputs. Well, here's the thing, you can spot check them. Okay, so address these issues first, review the flagged areas, and put mitigations in place before launching. Okay, that means you need to spot check, right? You need to spot check where these what the AI agent is saying or the chatbot saying on a regular basis. So that's how I would overcome this. I mean, it doesn't mean don't use it. It means have a conversation about this type of tool. So I love what we've done. Let's check. Did that go in the, beautiful. Okay. So here we have it. Here's our tool. Now, a couple of caveats. One, nothing is going to save in here after this session. Okay. So I made this. This is a great demo, but I have not added any backend configuration to save this data. Okay. That is where the next level is. If you want this and you want to have something that's actually useful, you need to add a database. And Lovable will do that, right? You can have it test. You can say, I want to add a database. It will help you, but that is beyond the scope of this course and this demo. And then when you want to publish, you go up to here, publish. It will give you a link and you walk through the process like that. But that is what it looks like to vibe code on Lovable. And that didn't take too long at all. We're building a simple tool here, and you can already see how this might have value on a team who's like, oh, I'm not sure what AI tool to build, and I'm really not sure what the risk level is. A tool like this could help everybody out. So there you have it. Happy vibe coding and exploring what's possible with these vibe coding tools. Congratulations, you did it. You made it to the end of this course. I applaud you. You now have the knowledge and hopefully the skills to move forward in all kinds of directions. Maybe you just want to build some helpful tools for yourself in your job. Maybe you want to take it to the next level and build some tools for your team to make things easier for the team. Or maybe you're thinking, hey, I want one of those emerging AI jobs, and you can position yourself in your company for one of those. Or maybe you go outside as well to see what opportunities you can land. Either way, you have a lot of cool new skills and knowledge that you can apply. And I want to be real specific what you have done here, because sometimes it's hard in these emerging spaces to know what you actually did and how to communicate it. So here's what we got. One, you expanded your prompting skills. You went beyond the basics to actually understand the different types of prompts we give when we're starting to build AI tools, right? You learned how to connect AI tools to existing systems. That was definitely in the no code piece, in the no code AI agent piece. You learn how to identify human AI interaction opportunities. This is probably one that kind of lurks in the background, but every time you're thinking about the workflow, you're thinking about what does the human do versus what does the agent do. You're creating human AI interaction opportunities. You know all about testing and iterating AI outputs. My gosh, that's what we did throughout all of these. You also did some knowledge curation. So looking at data and saying, this is the data we need for this AI tool to work. That is knowledge-based curation, knowledge curation. And that's the ability to identify and structure the right information for AI systems, okay? You learned how to scope a use case before building so you don't waste time. Absolutely critical skill, probably one of the top skills you're going to need to work in emerging AI spaces. You learned how to document an AI tool so teammates can actually use it. And critical skill alert, you learned how to get unstuck using documentation and AI when things don't work out. Because as you know, things don't always work out when we're building these tools. So you learned a lot. There's even more in there, I'm sure, but this should help you at least think about what you're capable of when you start writing, looking for the next opportunities. Let me tell you, these emerging jobs, they're not set in stone. You have the ability to create the narrative to be the person that does these jobs. So take this expertise and think about how you might use it in your next job move. So what's next? Well, this is my challenge to you from here. I want you to finish your AI tools. You don't have to do them all. You can do the ones that you like best, where your skills take you right now, and then create a portfolio of that work. I want you to show your work. This is what gets noticed in the marketplace. This is what makes you stand out. If you're looking for jobs, show off your work. Okay. And how do you do that? Well, you vibe code a portfolio. Okay, this came from Lovable. This is a portfolio template. I will link to it in the resources. I'm not going to show you how to do it. You already have the skills to vibe code. You already know. It'll take you some time, of course, but show off what you have built and put it in a portfolio here. You could also host it on GitHub if you want to do it that way. But I love the idea of having a portfolio that is designed in a way that reflects you and your personality and your learnings and stuff like that. You have the skills now to do this. And if you end up building one of these portfolios and with all your work, please show me, tag me on LinkedIn. I would absolutely love to see this. I'm sending you all the good luck and good vibes as you move forward in this emerging space, and have fun.